Good afternoon. Thank you and welcome to the Board of Commissioners regular workshop meeting. Today is Wednesday, August 26, 2026, and it is 4 p.m. City Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Mayor Brooks.
Here.
Vice Mayor McGeehan.
Here.
Commissioner Tagliarini.
Here.
Commissioner Dillon.
Here.
Commissioner Kabayi.
Here.
All are present.
Next on the agenda is public comment. Public participation is encouraged. If you are addressing the commission, step to the podium and state your name and address for the record and the organization or group you represent. Please limit your comments to 5 minutes and do not include any topic on the agenda. Public comment on agenda items will be allowed when they come up. If you would like someone at the city to follow up on a comment or question made at the meeting, you may fill out a comment card with the contact information and give it to the city manager. Comment cards are available at the back table in the commission chambers. Completing a comment card is not mandatory. Do we have any public comment? No public comment. We will move on. We are going to postpone the reading of the Purple Heart Month proclamation until September. We will have someone in attendance to receive that. Next.
Madam Mayor, I'm sorry. So the proclamation, since August is a Purple Heart Month, so we are going to move forward every year to recognize.
Yes, but the person who's receiving it could not be here tonight, so we're going to present it at our next meeting. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Next on the agenda is Board of Commissioners, and our first item is the Pinellas County Sheriff's Office contract with the City of Madeira Beach. And we have a presentation style conversation.
Mike's on.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I'm Lieutenant Josh Jones. I'm here with Deputy Corey Snyder. He's a community policing officer, deputy for Madeira Beach. I'm the community policing lieutenant.
Normally, we would ask for public comment on the item, but I think that we will let the commission ask some questions if you have any questions or comments before we go to the public.
We're doing commissioners first.
Mike, do you have anything specific for this?
This was so that the commissioners could ask any questions to the lieutenant and the officer.
Okay. Then commission, do you have any questions or comments? I'm going to go last.
Did you say Deputy Jones?
Lieutenant Jones, yes, sir.
Lieutenant, sorry.
you're
Jones.
fine.
I heard the last part. So I just want to be clear. Pinellas County Sheriff's does an excellent job of serving Madeira Beach. My comments are not intended as criticism. What I'm hearing from residents is many of their day-to-day concerns involve quality of life issues rather than emergency response. Nobody's going to argue that the deputies are there when we need them, for sure. I just want to understand better how these ordinance enforcement responsibilities are being addressed with our contract and whether there are opportunities to improve as necessary. Residents increasingly, and this is just my opinion, are increasingly judge the city's effectiveness not by emergency response because I hate to say this, they take it for granted, right? Well, they shouldn't. But they, not by emergency response, but by quality of life issues such as noise ordinances, lease compliance, beach regulations, and property maintenance. Clearly not emergency.
Yes, sir.
All right. So just a couple of questions to refocus our thinking. Where can we, or what do we need to do, if anything? Could you help us understand how the dedicated code enforcement deputies' time is currently allocated among the different types of ordinance violations we see in Madeira Beach?
Yeah, so I'm going to defer the question to Deputy Snyder.
I think the focus changes from month to month on what the priorities are. 2 months ago we had a lot of short-term rental issues that were popping up. we've had such a high turnover with residential properties, and new property owners are not abiding by, well, one, they didn't pull permits to remodel, demo, and then now we've got occupancy in some of these properties, and the occupancy is unpermitted, and then they're short-term renting, so they're violating the zoning laws. So we're finding this stuff out by resident complaints. Remember, anonymous complaints by Florida statute are not to be recorded and followed up on. So that's one thing, that if you're taking a complaint from one of your residents, they have to give their name and address in order for us to follow up on it. So it's a requirement, a state requirement. So when we get some that are anonymous, unfortunately, you can ask the city attorney, we cannot follow up on them. So that being said, our focus has been specific hotspots within the city that have short-term rentals. We've identified several dozen right now. We have several dozen that are open. We're trying to obtain compliance, which is notify them of the zoning that they're in, what type of rental they can do, have them apply for a city business tax. They have to get a rental inspection, which is cooperation from the Lisa and her department, rental inspection, complete the rental inspection, they get their business tax, and then they can only operate within the permitted times. So, and it's a chase. We chase these things around, and the only way you can determine short-term rental activity is to speak to someone at the house. So we have this list of properties that we check routinely. We see rental cars, or we see no cars, or, where's the activity? We also check the Airbnb websites. The city's trying to use, you guys were talking about getting the AirDNA, which may help, but just going on Airbnb, booking.com, VRBO, we can find these ads. They're portable, though. They can bring them up, they can bring them down, they can change the status of their rental capacity with a couple of clicks. So we had several that went to the special magistrate on Monday. We found them in violation, and we hope they're in compliance after that. So we had 3 that went. One was continued, but when we came to the special magistrate, they had changed their advertisement to 90 days or more. So, and that's what we want. We want voluntary compliance, but we still have to monitor these places. We know they're on our radar, and some of these places have multiple units. So that's just one of the focuses that we're doing. So now it's kind of shifted to, well, we've got all these properties that can sit abandoned for the next 36 months. So how do we make them look better? And that's grass. So now we're going after the grass violations, and we do grass, the city does grass, whoever's available. They do more as far as the building department stuff is concerned. If it requires a permit, the city code officials will do that. We would handle more exterior issues, grass, abandoned cars, tree debris. But since I'm not a certified building inspector, and it doesn't require, I would not handle something that requires a permit. Your city staff can handle everything I can do and more, because they go through the city's permitting process. I don't know what to tell them what to get, what permit to obtain. So car on blocks, that would be mine. Short-term rental stuff, they can do that as well. If we have something that we take a big step back and look, and they did work without a permit, it's building issues plus short-term rental, that can all be lumped together in one code enforcement, and it should be. It should be all-encompassing, all the different violations. So I don't know if I answered your question, but it's just that the focus was short-term rental. We've got a lot identified. We're working on those now. We're getting a handle on quite a few, and now we've shifted to grass issues, and I know that we've issued, between the deputies and the civilian employees, 30, 40 violations in the last couple of weeks, just to get them. We're already getting compliance on some of them. I mean, some of them, they're already emailing back, hey, we're on it, we're getting it done. We have re-inspections starting Monday, but we have quite a few that are open. So the focus now is grass. So drive around, you see tall grass, 2 feet tall grass, and some of the issues, we're demoing these lots, and then the lots are free to grow. There's nothing on it anymore. And I know pools is a topic in the next section there too, but, and we're trying to clean up, and I can't speak for the cities, their process and for demo, but we're trying to clean up the process to where we demo property adequately so we don't have issues down the road. And we've missed a few things where we're demoing a property where we're leaving the pool. There's no power to the pool, and then that pool becomes black or green, and now we've got, mosquitoes. And I can't go on the property, you can't go on the property, Pinellas County Mosquito Control can't go on the property without the property owner's permission. So treating that pool, unless we've got a court order that says we can go on there, is not our responsibility. We want voluntary compliance. So, and we're trying to clean up the process to where slabs are removed, pools are removed in the demo. So we're not left with it to deal with it later on down the road. So I don't know if I
Thanks.
answered any of your.
That answered the question and answered a couple more questions I had, but just to confirm, you said that a resident, if they want to report something, they have to include their name.
They do.
Did you say that's a state?
It's a Florida statute. Tom?
Florida, so we can't get around that.
You cannot get around it. You not only have to give the name, but also your address.
Right.
You don't have to give a phone number, you don't have to give an email address, but you do have to give name and address.
Got it. Now, does that preclude a code enforcement officer, him or herself, spotting a violation?
No,
You don't-
drive-by
you don't
inspections
need
are
a
fair
report
game.
for that,
Fair
right?
game. Yeah, right. Yeah, so pools are, pools are behind your house. They're behind your fence. So, and we were at a property in the neighborhood, and a neighboring resident, like, sure, come on up, take a picture. I get up there, and he's like, she's going to know that the picture was taken from my second floor balcony, and he changed his mind. And I can't use the pictures. It was another resident complained she was unable to provide us with any pictures, so we're kind of stuck
Right.
with, being this anonymous complaint.
I 100% agree that in the last year, we've needed to do these short-term rentals and these permit enforcement type of things. But some of these things are, like I've said before, noise ordinances, dogs off leash, dogs on the beach. Are there, are we only going to rely on residents reporting that? Or that can also be something that a code enforcement officer could report. Is that right?
Correct, sir, yes. And like for the 8 deputies that work in patrol that are assigned to Madeira Beach, there's 2 per shift. There's 4 shifts total that the deputies work. So you have the 8 deputies plus your 2 community police officers and any other community police officers that come out to the beach and help and assist as well.
Right,
That do the beach patrols and whatnot. So all of those 8 deputies are trained on the city of Madeira Beach code enforcement out for as far as dog on the beach, noise ordinances. They're all trained for the noise meter, and they are.
Regarding, sorry, the noise thing.
Yes, sir.
I've been told that there's special training required. Are all of our officers trained to use
Yes, sir.
the decibel meters?
So yeah, every 6
And
months.
and we have one.
Yes, so every 6 months, and then the community police officers, we also, we have some in our office as well that we use. So if it's something that's long-term, or it's a consistent problem, like we had with the hippie for a while, that would defer to more of a community police officer issue. They would get with them, they would go out there, they would do the noise meter that way. If it's something that is a complaint coming in through dispatch, that unit would go out there, they can go get it from the office, here at City Hall and go out and monitor the
Thanks.
noise.
Yeah, that's good. So, I mean, I've been asked, well, if you don't like the noise, if you don't like the randomness of Madeira Beach, why did you move to a resort? And my response is because before I bought my house here, I looked at the ordinances and I found that there are ordinances against those things, and residents would assume that they're going to be enforced. So, I just think that it's important that we identify these quality of life issues. And regarding the community outreach, do you think there's opportunities for community policing and code enforcement positions to have a more visible presence in addressing the recurring ordinances issues before they become a larger complaint? So you think we got that covered? Do you think there's room for more of that?
100%, I think we have it covered. I know both of our community police officers in the city of Madeira Beach specifically are well-known in the area. They know Deputy Sniber's been out here for quite a while. Deputy Mitchell is new to the area, but he's done a lot of code enforcement in the city already. But also going into that, the code enforcement part, they have to come back and file their own paperwork. They have to prepare the certified letters here at City Hall and send those out, and then go prepare all the paperwork for the special magistrate hearing as well. So a lot of it goes into on the backside.
Yeah.
That takes some time as well.
And I know that the deputies have been working closely with community development because there's a lot of overlap, and I certainly appreciate that. Is there a regular schedule for, and I'm going to say this more than once, policing the beach for the code, mostly dogs, and smoking is not, that's harder, but just dogs at all on the beach. Is there a regular schedule for patrolling the beach?
We don't have a specific schedule. We try to focus towards the morning hours and maybe the twilight hours when people seem to be walking the beach for sunset and whatnot. Our deputies have basically a prepared notes of what they do and their responsibilities for the city. So they go in there and look at all the responsibilities, and it has all the gate codes in it, all the city codes where they can have access to the city hall. But it also tells them, hey, you go out there, you need to go out on the beach at least once or twice a day and do it. And it's all call dependent. So if we have a lot of calls for service, if it's a very involved call, unfortunately, we may not get out there for that deputy, but we do strive to get out there as much as possible.
Do you think that is something that needs to be tweaked in the contract? So
I
are time specifics? Because what I've experienced and what residents have said, certainly the deputies will come, but there's other things they're doing. And so by the time they get there, I know you're probably sick of hearing that story.
No, not at all.
But it happens. But if we had a time specifically, maybe the presence would have a difference?
It would, but then it would create more issues, in my opinion, is if you make it that specific time frame, people get used to
They learn.
They learn it, and then they'll do it the opposite of what we're doing. So the randomness, I think, is more important, and I think in our opinion, that we get out there as much as we can. All of our deputies that are assigned to the beaches have four-wheel drive Tahoes, so it's not that they have to come back to the city and get a piece of equipment to go out to the beach. They will now respond out with their current vehicle they're driving. And that's not negating that the deputy fills in for vacation or overtime. They may not have a four-wheel drive Tahoe, but that's just when those deputies are out.
Okay, got it. So just from your experience, is the staffing level identified in the contract, is it sufficient to the proactively addressed the city's code enforcement needs? Are there times when higher priority calls significantly reduce the ability to focus on ordinance enforcement? Well, bottom line, do we have enough guys and gals?
Yes, sir, I believe so. I mean, see, with the 8 deputies you have, I said assigned patrol that also can do code enforcement. You have the 2 community police officers. If you have a higher priority call, obviously the 2 supervisors are assigned to the beaches will respond. We have people from, if it's St. Pete Beach, if it's Seminole, depending on the high priority of the call, you could have several, if not dozens of deputies out here within minutes.
Got it.
Yeah.
So finally, Lieutenant Jones, if the commission identifies several ordinance categories as recurring community concerns, let's say we say this is still a problem.
Yes, sir.
What mechanisms exist within the contract framework for us to work collaboratively with Pine Hills County Sheriffs on targeted enforcement or education efforts? What can we do if we still identify a problem, even though they're on our contract? What can we do to work with you guys to improve the situation?
Right. So we do monthly stats that come to the city. It provides all the information on there of what the deputy's done throughout the month. It's a statistical sheet that shows the increase or decrease of a certain number or what they are. What we'll do is if that comes out, if we identify something or you guys see something that's in there that we need to focus on, you just have to get with Captain Gattarello or myself or Deputy Snyder here, and we can focus more on that. Yeah, so we do a lot of directed patrols. We do house checks on the beaches. So if it's something that's a specific area, if it's a noise violation, or a specific business that's a reoccurring noise, we can make a directed patrol in our system. It mandates every deputy goes in there, if not daily, every shift, and they'll monitor those times for any ordinance violations.
Thank you. So do these monthly reports, they do include non-emergency code violation, or do they only include the?
It depends. Because with Deputy Snyder here, when it comes to code enforcement, if it's something that they go for just through the city for building, it may not be captured in our notes, but it's captured in your city system for any ordinances.
So do we have a way of organizing that so we do see even the lesser or less urgent the ordinance violations like we're talking about? And I keep saying the same things: leash laws, grass, noise, beach dogs. Can that be included on a monthly report? And I don't think this is a question for you, but can that be part of our monthly, at least in the packet as far as a report, maybe not a presentation or agenda item?
In the monthly reports that we receive from the Sheriff's Office, it has one line item that says ordinance violations, and I think last month it was 43 of them. I've requested that they look into having those 43 broken down. Some of them are going to be, they're going to have a certain list of them. Also, there's going to be a list that's being generated by MGO that, yes, we could report on that. And I believe I think you all have to get permission to provide that. So you're going to go up the chain of command. Let's say in 2 months, we'll be able to have those reports. If
We're working on what you just spoke on, sir. We have some information already. We're working on getting it approved, but it's something we can request it through our chain. It shouldn't be an issue.
All right, thank you.
That would be very helpful. As I started with, the residents, they don't necessarily judge us by the big events. They judge us by how loud their neighbor is or how loud the squeaky wheel. So I appreciate your attention to these quality of life ordinances. They make a difference to our residents and to us. Thank you very much for being here. That's all I have.
Thank you.
Following him makes it very easy. I've got two things. Weekends, can you plan on doing at least 2 trips down the beach?
Yes, sir. So our deputies that are assigned the weekends, obviously they're AB shifts, so we always have coverage 24/7 out here on the beach. To include our community police officers, one works Saturday, one works Sunday. They both do code enforcement. They both do beach patrols. Obviously, weather inclement or if it's call dependent may depend on what time they're getting out there. But I can tell you people are doing beach patrols on the weekend.
They are or they're not?
They are.
Well. No, not really. Well, yeah, no, when you were out there, I saw you every time.
And again, it's just, so, and then a lot of times, we have a Polaris downstairs, it's a small 4-wheel drive, and the deputies have the ability to get on that. When our beaches are packed, they're very packed. When you've got a high tide and a packed beach, you can barely walk through the pedestrians and stuff, so it's difficult to get a Tahoe out there. And are we walking the beach? It's not very practical for us to walk the beach because our gear's in our car, so it's not something we normally do. If we have a call on the beach and we can't access it by sand, we'll go to the nearest beach access and deal with it. We had a noise call today, and we also have a 50-foot rule. Our ordinance has, we've adopted the county ordinance, noise ordinance, but we also have a 50-foot rule. You can issue a $50 citation for 50 feet or more sound. Unfortunately, I had to give one to the hippie a few months ago because they had their music came out in the middle of the night and it played for 2 hours. So it's just the cost of doing business. It came on, it was automatic. And so we do have a 50-foot rule. We can determine that with a laser or, if we know it's more than 50 feet, but we can't issue citations for that.
Just for clarification, is that 24 hours, 50-foot rule?
It doesn't have a time frame on it.
That's what I thought.
So, yeah.
I just wanted to hear that out loud.
But you are allowed to have amplified music.
Right.
So, and then you have to put together amplified music with that 50-foot rule, because amplified music is allowed, Friday through, I can't remember now, but there's certain days of the week that you can allow. So on the beach, you can have amplified music, but it's not supposed to carry more than.
Yeah, I know it's complicated. That's been an issue for a while.
Applying the two ordinances, they kind of butt heads because you can.
Thank you. I appreciate that clarification.
They had them shut down the music. It was just earlier today. So.
To go back to your questions, what we can do is I work closely with all lieutenants that work out here that are in charge of their shifts in the Madeira Beach and also the community police officers. We'll push out an email to all of them, make sure that they do extra patrols or just a reassurance that they're getting out there on the weekends.
I mean, because typically I get out there 10:30, 11 o'clock, and they're anywhere from 5 to 8. And there's been many weekends that I haven't seen anybody. So as to whether or not, I'm just, as Deputy Snyder said, he saw me all the time. I saw him all the time. Right. And it doesn't seem like maybe he's not doing Saturday, Sunday, which is just like, well, yeah, okay. So if you pass it on to the Saturday, Sunday shift, that's all.
Yes, sir. And we'll go ahead. We'll make sure that those the shift commanders are aware and the Madeira Beach officers are getting out there, or deputies are getting out there more often.
Because that goes to Commissioner Tagliarini's thing, in terms of anytime, and like the weekends, it's packed, and then also, it's difficult for me to tell people that have bottles, okay? So like, you don't have glass on the beach. You can legally drink, but to say you don't have a bottle, they got their case of beer, whatever, their Coronas and that. So it's just nice to say, okay, so we're letting you know. So when the sheriff come by, you're warmed. And so it kind of helps all the people that are abiding by the rules. and then the dog owners as well.
And in the packet that we have for our deputies that are, it's on our agency system, it goes over all the city ordinances, the most common ones: dogs on the beach, dogs off leash, glass on the beach, all those different ones that are the most common, and it has the city ordinance in there already cited. So if a deputy gets out there on the beach, instead of spending time trying to look for it, they already have it readily accessible.
Anything additional?
One thing final, though, you guys are doing a great job. I definitely appreciate it, and as all the committee here and the people, residents, I'm not sure how the tourists do, but I think you're doing an excellent job here.
Thank you.
Yes, I totally agree. Thank you for the job that you guys do. And we could see the crime activity is definitely lower than it was before. So thank you. I only have a couple things. The speeding on North Bay Shore, how can we curtail that? We seem to have a lot of traffic up and down Bay Shore, and the residents that I talk to, they're concerned about how, the speeds that go through there.
Yes, sir. So we have a traffic unit we can provide the information to. We will push it out to all our deputies that are working those shifts. If it's a specific time frame, if it's weekends only, we can get it to those people. We have what we call stealth boxes that we can put up and do speed studies. Usually that's what we do ahead of time. We'll put those up, monitor it for 5 days. We'll get the average speed. If it's more than 10 miles an hour over the speed limit, we'll address it more. If it's less, we'll just let the people know, hey, yes, there may be a slight speed increase or just visually looks like they're speeding, but it's not as bad as everybody seems it is.
Yeah, and I really don't think it's a lot of the residents. I think it's people coming in, doing work and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
and that's something, we can address, if it's a specific day, we'll put more direct patrols in, and those deputies we're obligated to go out there on those specific times and days to work that problem. And it's something our CPOs and our unit can do as well. If it's directed or a specific day, we'll get out there and we can work it as well.
Fantastic. And one more thing from the residents that I have spoken with, the e-bike problem. And I'm sure you've watched the videos recently, and their concern is they can't see them at night, and they're blowing through these stop signs. There's no helmets. I mean, they're really worried that they're going to run into one of them. I mean.
Yes, sir. So we're working diligently to focus on e-bike problems. We've been doing an e-bike detail across the county once or twice a month. That's a designated detail that we do. We focus on hotspot problems. We've worked in the city of Dunedin, the Pinellas Trail, Seminole, Starkey Road Corridor. We've been out here towards the beach occasionally, or we've been out here. But the deputies, anytime if there's no lights on the bike, it's a violation. We stopping them. If they're underage of 16 without a helmet, we can stop them as well, notify their parents. And if there's an e-moto, which is the dirt bike version of the e-bikes, those are illegal. Those are criminal citations. We can write them for unregistered, like off-road vehicle, all-terrain vehicle, and they have to go to court like an adult would for a citation. So we've written those to a lot of the juveniles, especially for the wheelies, if they're blocking the road or they're causing issues. That citation is a $1,300 citation for doing wheelies on those e-motos. It's like a motorcycle. So we've written a few of those. It seemed to curtail it for now, but we're still going to continue. And we do those once a month, and we'll be more than happy to do one of those details out here on the beach.
That's fantastic. And that also is included in the monthly reports, right?
I don't believe so, but that's a separate one. We can, if we do them, that we can through the captain get it approved to provide you with the stats on them or when we're going to do one.
And that way we can share it with residents and stuff like that. So thank you very much.
Yeah, no problem. We probably won't advertise it ahead of time because then we won't have people coming out to the beaches or anything like that.
Right.
But but it's one of those things after the fact that we're actually doing it because we have pamphlets that we printed up as well, and it's not just it's more education, but we're in the enforcement action now. So we'll contact the parents. They have to come pick them up. We'll provide them with the pamphlet that explains if their bike is illegal, if it's not, and if we document it, if they're seen again, and the parents can't come pick up their e-moto, we have to impound them. So once you get these $5,000-$6,000 e-bikes or e-motos impounded and they can't prove ownership, then people will stop riding them.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sheriff's Office is first class.
Thank you, sir.
It's really amazing during emergency times, during hurricanes, whatever it is, we can tap into the sheriff's office and get all the help we need. That's really amazing. So if you have to spend extra time, let's say during hurricane season, you guys were out here 24/7, 10 deputies, you don't charge any extra monies, right? It's just like a one-time, monthly fee we pay you, and that will cover everything.
Part of the contract, if my memory serves me, that anything that's extra like that, we absorb, or if it's FEMA-related money, that we bill FEMA. If you want a specific answer, I'm not going to answer budget questions per se, but if it's something, we can get back to you on that one. But I'm pretty confident we do not.
Okay. All right, so you are basically increasing your monthly dues by $9,000.
Again, that's a fiscal question, a budget
Understood,
question.
understood.
Yeah.
I'm just putting it out there. And when I multiply it out per hour per person, it turns out to be like $110 per hour per person, which to me it's an amazing deal because you also include your vehicles, you also include your gas, your services, and 2 deputies at any given time. So from my perspective, I think it's awesome, and I support it.
Well, I can tell you that it's the 2 deputies anytime, but it's you have resources and everything else that if we need to respond, we can have the whole county respond if it's that bad. We've done it before. We'll do it again. And if the Marine unit, the aviation unit, K-9, all the options that you have available to you as a contracted city, we're here to help.
That's an amazing service.
I want to follow up on that in that because everyone has had something to say about, I think all of you did, in regards to how many deputies. So if you think to when the teen takeover happened in Clearwater, and there was rumors online that it was going to happen here in Madeira Beach during the night market, our town was swarming with deputies. The market was, there were more deputies than I've ever seen at any event we've ever had. So my response on the Sheriff's Department is, I do think you do a great job in our city. I've never seen only 2 deputies in our city. They're here all the time. They do set up speed traps. They've had the wolf pack here. What I do hear, so I feel like to steal a term from the fire department, they pivot and adjust based on what our needs are. And what I'm hearing from the commission is maybe we need to be better communicators of where our needs are. In that if we have a lot of Airbnb complaints or noise ordinance complaints, the commission, if you're receiving that, I can't remember the last time I received a Airbnb complaint or a noise ordinance complaint directly to me. But communicate that to the city manager so that he can communicate that to the sheriff's department, and then they can address that in a different fashion. I also wanted to say that when we talk about dogs on the beach or things like that, the sheriff's department can only be in one place at one time per person. So if they patrol the beach and there are no dogs on the beach, and then I see, because I have a dog, that, oh, they're done, and then I take my dog to the beach. It's unfortunate that we have people that don't follow the rules of no dogs on the beach, but I feel like based on the conversations that I've had with them over the last 3 years, that they do patrol the beach and they try to patrol the areas based on what's going on in our city on that day or during that time frame, that week, that month, whatever. So I feel like you listen and pay attention to that. I am curious if you can tell me, Corey, do you get a lot of Airbnb complaints and noise complaints currently? I know that there's been a time where we got a lot of them, but have y'all been receiving a lot?
We get maybe a couple of Airbnb complaints a month.
Okay.
And I don't think we've gotten one in the last 30 days. Previous 2-3 months ago, we were getting quite a few, but they've sort of died off because we've been taking action on them. We've been issuing courtesy letters, posting properties, so taking action on the complaints that we've been given. So I can't think in the last couple weeks of an Airbnb complaint. So we had one that came in, but it was a repeat. It was already an open case. So that's what happens too, is we get, somebody's complaining, but it's already an open case, or we've already got a disposition on it. We've taken it to the special magistrate, and or fines are already on properties. Some of them have already been addressed. I think that Commissioner Tagliarini got a hold of me about a property on BOC, which had already been taken to the magistrate, and they're getting a 500-day fine. The residents calling because the mosquitoes are still a problem, but we just got information that the property is going to be demoed, so it might take care of all of our issues if they demo it soon. So satisfy the code enforcement case, get rid of the green pool, and they're not renting it, but it's just another issue. So, the short-term rental complaints have died off. So
Awesome.
Noise.
And
It's been, I'd have to check the patrol calls for service, but I haven't gotten any forwarded noise complaint.
Okay, so I think I just have two more things. I had the opportunity to speak briefly with Lieutenant Jones before we came in here, and a lot of people, and it was said here today, 2 deputies. So I would like for us to clarify, because 2 deputies is not an accurate comment for us to ever say. We don't have just 2 deputies in our city. So could you step the commission through the number of deputies and vehicles and that sort of thing, and lieutenants or captains that we have for our city?
Yes, ma'am. So you have Captain Gattarello, who's the overall contract for South County for all the contractual cities that we have. He answers the city manager's phone calls, emails, to include all the other city managers. You have 4 lieutenants that are assigned to patrol. Those lieutenants now are assigned to their shifts. They're assigned to each of the 2 deputies that are assigned to Madeira Beach on their shift. You have myself. You have Sergeant Grishinger, who's in charge of Deputy Snyder. You have Corporal D'Angelo, who is also his supervisor as well. Then you have Deputy Snyder, Deputy Mitchell, and then the 2 per shift. So per shift, it's every 12 hours you have 2 people working the city of Madeira Beach. Those are offsetting. You have 24-hour coverage. So any given time, you have 2 people in the city, plus their 2 supervisors as well. So they're sergeant and corporal. So it's the sergeant and corporal in charge of all the Barrier Island beaches. So from Bel Air Bluffs south to Madeira Beach, they're in charge of all the contractual cities that they have. But they split it. There's always probably a supervisor in the city of Madeira Beach or nearby. So for 2, it's what is contractual at any given time, but it's 8 total patrol deputies, the 2 community police officers, and then the supervisors that they're assigned to.
So that's 10 deputies, 10 cars, plus supervisors.
Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to clarify that because I think that's missed on a lot of people. And the one last parting thing I want to say is that, and this is no question for you, I'm just making a comment, in regards to the increase. I'm not saying that this is why we're getting an increase, and I'm not saying that this is a bad thing, but there are mandates that come down from Tallahassee to the Sheriff's Department that come unfunded. So when you look at the budgets, as we just finished a budget session for our own budget, and you look at the dollars and where the dollars come from and where the dollars go, the Sheriff's Department also they're not just coming in here and taking care of us. They have a boss, which is Tallahassee, that says, okay, you've got to do this, 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 and this, but we're not going to pay you any extra money towards that. So I think that's a good thing to take into consideration when we think about paying our deputies, and we're, the service is, I believe, fantastic. We've had good service and good responsiveness. I've been on the receiving end of needing to make a call to have the deputies come. And in my personal life, we had a break-in at our complex, and it was a burglary, and it was fantastic. They came, they got the video, they took the pictures. They knew who the gentleman was that did it right away because of our local police officers recognized the person, and they were able to apprehend him, take him to court, and made him pay restitution. So I mean, to me, that's a win. That's good work done, good police work. So I fully support the contract, and thank you for coming today, and we appreciate all that you do for us.
Thank you.
Do we have any public comment? You won't have to answer them. They're just going to tell you something nice, I hope.
Hi. Bob Bello, 13301 Gulf Lane. So I know none of the commissioners, I don't believe any of them live on the beach. So since I do, I want to speak to some of Commissioner Taglerini's comments. I do know, because I just look out my windows every day, I see minimum during the daylight, the sheriff patrolling at least 4 times a day. Also see him at least twice at night. So if you're looking for so I think before you mentioned, hey, we out there 2-4 times. I see them all the time. They're definitely 4 times during the light hours. So if you want more, you got to ask for more than that. So that's one comment. In regards to the dogs, again, I observe what I see going on and off the beach. My way to know when there's dogs on the beach, I think Snyder should deputize my dogs because they go freaking crazy. And I look out, and what do I see? Dogs. And usually what happens is I start noticing for that week, my dogs go crazy roughly the same time. And I look out the window. It's not people I know. It's usually tourists. And it's just what their pattern is. And then after a couple of days, it goes away. So how you fix that, I don't know. But I just wanted to give you some of the feedback of what I see because, I'm able to observe it daily.
Thank you. Do we have any additional public comment? With no additional public comment, Deputy Snyder and Lieutenant Jones, thank you for coming and presenting. Next on the agenda.
I got one more thing to say. Also, we do have the non-emergency service. So if anything is done, you can call the non-emergency service and there's a deputy that will come out and take care of your complaint. So don't let that be forgotten either. So there is a non-emergency service number that you can call and they come out immediately. Thank you.
Mayor, since Commissioner Dillon said one other thing, by no means am I arguing with this contract. We definitely need to do
No.
it.
I did not think
my
anyone
whole
was.
purpose of this questioning was to look at our priorities. All right? That's all I'm saying. It is a problem, and I understand deputies can't be all places at all time. But I just want to make sure that we identify it.
And I agree.
The quality of life is part of our return on investments for our residents. If our residents aren't comfortable for whatever reason, and there's an ordinance in our book that says this isn't allowed, they have a reasonable expectation that it should be enforced in a timely fashion. I'm aware of the non-emergency number. That doesn't go to our deputies. Eventually, pretty quick, right? So that is, and that's the only thing I've ever used, right? So please don't mistake as I said at the beginning, please don't mistake my comments and questions for the lack of confidence in the Pinellas County Sheriffs and the fine work they do here. I'm just looking to bring to attention these non-emergency code violations and make sure that they are a priority in our city.
So I think that was my point in saying that as a commission, when you receive those things or you hear something, it is on us, incumbent on us to communicate that to the city manager so that he can communicate that to the deputies, because you may be getting the calls or I may be getting the calls, but if we don't tell someone that there's an issue, it may be something that they don't recognize, right? If they're not there and they don't see that as a recurring issue, we are their partners. So let's be sure that we funneled our information to the city manager so that he can then funnel it to the sheriff's department and they can make those adjustments. Thank you. And I did not think that I thought you were going on the record of good stuff. So there you go.
If I say one more thing?
Yes, please.
All right. Just to clarify your question, it doesn't go to the deputies for the non-emergency number. The sheriff's office has a non-emergency number as well, the 582-6200, that you can call in any complaint. It gets routed to the deputies on Madeira Beach if they need to. So if it's a dog on the beach, please call. We'll come out and do it. So if it's glass on the beach, please call us. We'll come out and we'll identify those. So if they've been previously warned or and we've noticed that or they've been noticed, we'll cite them. So it's we have a system that tracks all those, so we can see it in our report system, and they'll go out there and they'll deal with it. So by all means, please contact us when you have those issues on the beach. We'll come out and deal with them.
Thank you, Lieutenant.
So next on the agenda is the abandoned swimming pools. This item actually should be over with the code enforcement conversations, so we're going to skip over that at this time and move to the 2026 Board of Commissioners meeting calendar. City Clerk, you placed this.
I did. I was requested to bring it back to you all after we made a couple of changes. So look at that and make sure everything is set in stone. If you need any more changes, let me know. Of course, you can change it at any time, but I brought it back at the request of the commission.
Clara, this is probably my error, but I see that on December 9th, there's a 2 p.m. meeting, a workshop meeting, but no regular meeting. I feel like we discussed this, but I have it on my calendar for a 4 o'clock regular meeting on that day. Did we decide against that one?
We
Yes,
did.
when-
We decided we would do just a meeting in November and just a workshop in December.
Okay.
And then we'd get back on our schedules, and because there's not time to notice, and it's too much for staff to try to get all of that done when you book the meetings on the same day.
Done. Thank you for that clarification. Sorry for my error.
Nope. Next on the agenda is the key to the city plaque language, and I believe Commissioner Govey, you did this?
Yes, indeed, and I reached out to Commissioner Tagliarini, and he crafted a wonderful what's the word, not a speech, but tribute, or whatever it is that goes on the plaque. And all the commissioners have a copy of it, and just love to have you read and maybe add or subtract or approve, so we can place that on the plaque and move forward with our recognizing the wonderful people that are doing all that work in the city of Madeira Beach.
Just to make sure I got clarification from Commissioner Gavai, there will be 2 given out. And so each of their names will be there for your, so you understand, that's why it says recipient names too.
We have 2 plaques already.
Yes.
It's been approved by this commission, and if you all are okay with this verbiage, we'll move forward. If you'd like to add or subtract, please let me know.
I do not have. I think this is nice.
This is very, yeah. I don't have an issue.
I know that everything we do is in the sunshine, and someone could request this, but I would think that I would not really want to read it publicly right now. I would rather that when this became a public statement, it would be done when that plaque is given to the person. Is that okay, Tom, for us not to read it? I understand it's in the record and someone could request it.
That's right. You don't need to verbalize it.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, then we will not verbalize this.
Okay.
Do we have any public comment? Okay, so if no one has any comments on this, then we will move on to the next item on the agenda, which is review ordinances for keys, coins, awards, et cetera. So we discussed this in the last meeting, and the reason I thought we should look at these is that as our anniversary comes, and we as a board have talked about recognition and doing things within the community that not only supports the community, but also our staff, I wanted us to have this in our mind and to read so that we could choose things and do things to recognize our employees, our community at the anniversary. Some of these are not necessarily meant for when they do we do our 80th anniversary next year, but I believe the city should be implementing on a regular basis. You should be recognizing an employee as it was written. So that is where this came from in my thoughts.
Especially landmarks, like if an employee's been employed by the city for 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, they should be recognized.
So I'll tell you what, let's start with Resolution 2021-10. 2021-10 was signed in 2021, and it says that an Employee of the Year award program was established. I don't believe that's happened. And I would like to see this get implemented. And it says exactly what the commission at the time had envisioned in doing, and that was to choose a Employee of the Year. On or before October 1st, department directors will nominate one employee within each of their respective departments to be considered as the nominee for the award of Employee of the Year. I just think that kind of speaks for itself, but it's not been picked up. It's several commissions ago that this got voted on and implemented, and they may have done it, but it's not being done now. And I think it's important to give recognition to the employees. I would personally like to see us do a quarterly something. But I feel like we should place more importance on our employees than what we do. We should place more importance on our residents than what we do. And if we don't start the conversation here, it's not going to happen.
And so are you proposing that we come forward with suggestions for recognition for our employees, or is there already a list of things that you'd like us to consider?
This is the only thing that is there. So these three things, I mean, they provided us with the personnel policy, and then these two, the one that we passed, which is the city coin, and those recognitions, the key to the city, proclamation letters, those are not really geared towards staff. They're geared more towards the community. But this is a start. So what would, in 2021, they had a vision to recognize an employee every year. I believe you should be recognizing every employee on their anniversary. When you've been here 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, doesn't that count for something? At any other place that you would work, they recognize you for that. That's a commitment to the community, not just to the city as an employee, but to the community that they're working for and serving every day when they come here.
I definitely agree.
So you're suggesting that we just need to refocus on these three items and actually make it happen?
I
Make it
agree,
so?
yes.
Sure.
City manager, it's on you to make this happen.
Uh-oh. Yay, more for Mike.
Understood. I understand. Yep.
It's important.
Yes.
I mean, it's important. People should be recognized for
Yeah,
their
this
hard
one
work.
has the Employee of the Year, but you were talking about anniversaries. So you're talking 5, 10, 15, 20.
Give them 1 year. If you make it a year, they made it a year, right? I mean, I don't know what the number is. I'm not wanting to sit here and dictate that to you. But what I'm saying is that we do not currently do any recognition in the city. We used to do birthday recognition. I think that went away. I mean, so there's no recognition in the city for the staff and for what they do. And I think it's important to, I mean, they all get their paycheck. Yay. Great. They get their benefits. That's awesome. Is anybody telling them, you did a great job? I try to, but I don't work with every employee in the city. But the ones when I do interact with, I try to be mindful to recognize what they do, because this is not an easy job, right? It's not a 40-hour-a-week job. For many of the employees in this city, we've talked about this, especially post-hurricane, they work hours. They put in long hours. Are they compensated for that? I don't know. Maybe you could say they are, but when you're working a 60-hour week, recognition is just that. It isn't money, I understand that, but recognizing people for the value that they have, I think, is important. So maybe you could come back to us with some things that you see as good recognition things to implement for city staff and things to do that recognize.
I will do that.
Yeah, I think that would be awesome. Commission?
Well, I think also the heads of all the departments have been here since this was implemented in 21. So I think they might be able to help Mike with this as well.
I'm sure they can. I'm sure they can.
Yeah, I think we have a great great team of employees here in the city of Madeira Beach, and I believe that they should be recognized for all the hard work that they do. And it's very much appreciated by the Board of Commissioners and the mayor.
We have the finest.
Pardon me?
We have the
You're the
finest.
best.
Oh.
Yeah.
We do. Do we have any public comment? All right, then we will move on to Board Appreciation Dinner Planning.
Hamburgers.
So, Clara, you put this on.
I did. I put it on here because to me it's important, and through COVID and all of that, it's sort of been pushed back. Thought maybe the commission, when we keep budgeting it, we just roll it over each year, and with the 80th anniversary coming about, or if this, being that the city Board of Commissioners adopted their, where they recognize Employee of the Year, the citizens and different things key to the city. And that's what we did at those dinners. We invited those that was given those recognitions. Thought maybe you might want to bring it back and do something, or mix it up with 80th anniversary, or do something. And let you know that it's here if you want to think about it.
So, I have a question. For the 80th anniversary, City Manager, are we thinking about inviting a committee of residents to participate in planning that event? Or are we thinking that city staff is just going to make all the decisions without any input from the community?
I think we should have a committee of residents that would work with staff and commission.
I think it would be interesting to put something out there and see for volunteers to participate. I had the opportunity to chat with a mayor from another city, and I love being able to hear how they do it in other cities and neat ideas. They have a lot of, in this particular city, where they look for volunteers from the community to do different things. But I shared with the city manager the other day that one of the things another community does is they have random acts of kindness. And you can go onto their website and you can enter nominating someone for a random act of kindness. And when the commission meetings come on, it scrolls when the logo of the city is there and it's waiting on the meeting to start. Those random acts of kindness that have been sent in and nominated scroll through, and it tells who the person is and what they did. And so often the mayor of that town does people that he sees where they do random acts of kindness. I thought that was a super, super positive, cool thing to do. And they give them sometimes in the meeting, they talk about, say what they are. And it's right on their website. I thought that was really neat. But when I was going through different websites looking at things, the one thing I started seeing a lot of was different things that different communities ask the community to volunteer to participate in planning. And I think it would be great to get some residents to help plan or be part of planning instead of it just being what we would want or what we would choose.
Yes. Thank you.
So you could bring that back, and just tell us? Okay.
Yep.
Commission?
Yes. Where will this dinner be, and will it have fireworks?
So I'd like to wait and see what we plan. My personal view would be to wait and see how we plan out the 80th anniversary, and would we want to incorporate that. So what we all need to do is go home and do your homework on what the coins and the awards and all of that, not the coins, but the awards, and come back to the next workshop to let's talk about what you would see, because we did not have this discussion prior to tonight, what you would see as that dinner being. But the reason I brought in the 80th anniversary is because if we tie it together, right, I really want to have the community involved in planning the 80th anniversary. I don't think that the commission and the city staff should make all the decisions. We did that this year. Right, and community involvement, I think, would be greatly received.
Can I ask for clarification about that, the board appreciation dinner planning? Just to understand, this is for past recipients of awards that we've given? Am I getting that right? Or is it?
I can explain a little. The clerk's office put a dinner together twice since I've been here, and it was for all the employees. Everybody could invite one person. We had dinner, we had nice music, and it was for all our board members, planning, civil service, and we had like 5 boards at the time. And then we invited those that got Volunteer of the Year, different ones. It was just a big, nice dinner, and it really went over very well.
And
We tried to do that every year.
Where was that held?
It was at the community center, the city center room here. And we had an organization that donated the bartender. We had the alcohol donated, and we made sure that they took the rest of it home back with them, and it was really nice.
But we have a budget for it.
We do. You budget $5,000 every year, and which that's another thing I wanted to bring out, because we were just pushing it at that $5,000. So you might want to think about increasing that for the budget that we're going to adopt, because I don't think $5,000 would make it anymore.
Well, I think it's a great idea. Does it,
But we try to fit it.
Mayor, is it really part of the 80th? It seems like it's,
They're two different things.
they're two different
they
things.
are two different things.
But you're suggesting that it could be.
It could be.
Is that what you're suggesting?
It is.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, so in November, there's going to be a vote on the ballot that's going to say, do you want to do away with property tax? I think about that every day. If that vote happens, that's going to fiscally, it will affect us financially. I want to be mindful of how we spend our money. I'm not against doing a board appreciation dinner. I'm more my own view, this is, and I'm just one of 5, but my view is that if we're going to do something, I don't want to have a board appreciation dinner for us, right? I don't need to I appreciate you already.
It's not just the commission board.
I
it's
understand,
Board of
but
everybody.
you got to think about it. So it's the first time it's on our agenda. You need to look at what kind of awards can be given to be able to decide, what do you want to do? We can do these awards as part of the 80th anniversary. We can have a dinner that night or the day before or what have you, but it hasn't been on our agenda for
So
discussion.
this is the only time that both will coincide, but this will be recurring every year, that we will have the board appreciation dinner.
The board appreciation dinner has been in our budget every year, but there have not been any dinners planned in quite a few years. So if the question is, do you want to do a dinner, or do you want, because what do you want to do? This is the information. Each one of you have to have an opinion on what you want to do.
So let's, in my personal opinion, this year, since we have 2 items happening at the same time, let's make that like 1 into 1, as you had suggested. So the 80th year, as well as the board appreciation dinner, could happen at the same night. And then every year, maybe during that, maybe 81st year or 82nd year or whatever. Of course, we're not going to name that, but maybe that very evening, we'll appreciate the staff and the boards. And
So the board appreciation dinner when it was done, it was just done, what month, Clara?
October.
In October. So the 80th anniversary isn't in October, it's next year.
okay, so every October, we'll have a board appreciation dinner.
Correct. So if we're going to do a board appreciation dinner, what does that look like to you? Who's there? What awards are given? What do you want to do?
This is not something we're creating. It's already out there. Most other cities do the same thing, so we can learn from them.
That's exactly my point.
Yep.
So it's on the agenda. No one had any reference to it, so we just had this discussion, so it can come back at our next workshop,
Yes.
and you can bring back your opinion and ideas on that. The 80th anniversary, I want you to think about that, because if we're going to have a dinner in October, and then we're going to have an 80th anniversary party next year, just a few months later, right? be mindful of what are you going to give in October and what do you want to be the focus of the 80th anniversary. When you do the anniversary of the city, that's every year. We've done one every year for the last several years. We've had these recognitions, right? So next year it'll be 80. This year it was 79. The number wasn't a big deal this year, but the event we really didn't have an event, right? So next year we want to have an event because it's 80. What do you want at that event? It would be great if a community group helped us determine that, right?
Yeah,
That's what
community
I'm saying.
involvement's
I
very
think
nice.
I confused it talking about both of them, and I
No,
apologize for that.
I
But
picked up on
they
that.
kind of go
Yeah,
together to
yeah.
me
This year,
every year.
yeah.
They'll always go together. So when you think of the awards you're going to give at, if you're going to do a board party, what awards are going to be for that night?
Okay.
And then what awards are going to be for the community anniversary?
I guess since everybody celebrates their birthdays every year, we can do the same thing to our city.
So just, I don't, it's too soon for me to have a strong opinion about this because
And I don't want you to.
But you're not suggesting, are you suggesting that we do away with it?
I'm indifferent to the board appreciation dinner. I think that a board appreciation dinner, it depends on what we all come back with that you,
Right.
when you go look at other cities and you look at what they did, go back and look at what Madeira did when we did do them, and then come and have your idea of what you want to
Okay,
do.
okay.
My bigger focus personally to me is on the anniversary of the city and making that an event that is all inclusive of residents.
Well, in the short time that I've known about it, I have two thoughts. I don't see the two as being combined. One celebrates employees, one celebrates the city. But I do see it being combined with the staff recognition awards that we talked about earlier. Maybe that would be the time and place to give these awards. That would at least, an event-focused celebration. This is the employee of the year, this is the most improved, this is, I don't know, whatever. So that's all I'm going to, those are the only two thoughts that pop into my head. I guess we'll discuss it again.
So I think that taking off on that, when you look at doing the board appreciation dinner, it would be interesting to have input from staff for awards. And Mike, I'm sure, can do that and be able to understand, what would the directors see as in an award, and each department could be different. I mean, recreation could be who's the funniest person in recreation. Finance could be who's the worst with math or money. I don't know. Something. It could. When you're giving awards for staff, it can be funny takeoffs, it can be serious takeoffs, it can be a combination of all. But you want to come up with things that are going to stand year over year, right? Do you have any public comment? Okay. Then next on the agenda is community development, ordinance 2026-16, temporary parking use, parking lots along Gulf Boulevard and within Johns Pass Village Activity Center. And Marcy?
Yes, Andrea and Catherine are coming up here to present this topic.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Commissioners. At our meeting on July 22nd, 2026, staff asked the board for guidance on whether the commission wanted to allow for a temporary parking lot use. And based on the feedback that we received at the meeting, we prepared this ordinance for your review at this workshop meeting. The ordinance was written specifically to allow temporary parking lot uses in two areas of the city, for properties immediately adjacent to Gulf Boulevard and properties located within the Johns Pass Village Activity Center. The intent of this ordinance is to be temporary in nature. This is allowing use for standalone parking in districts where it is sometimes allowed but not always. But that would be with an improved parking lot, and this is looking to reduce the requirements for those parking lots in order to make them temporary in nature. There were two questions that the commission asked about whether we could limit the rates that could be charged in these parking lots. And I know the city attorney has communicated with the board and pointed out that we are not able to do that. The second question was to see if we could do this on some type of automatic renewal. That basically would not be possible the way that the states of emergency are operating in the state of Florida. Any temporary parking lot would still be operating 4 years later based on the last 4 years. So we put a date certain in the ordinance. So the ordinance is basically in 3 sections. It lays out the submittal requirements, the actual requirements for the parking lot surfaces and buffering. Whenever there's adjacent to residential use, we would have a fence or hedge type of buffer to avoid having parking lot lights shining into adjacent residential properties. And then it lays out some standard conditions of approval that would apply to all parking lots. And the primary portion of that would be that if you're in violation of these standards, then your use is no longer allowed. So that is a quick overview. Happy to answer any questions you might have on this ordinance.
Do we have any public comment?
Just one wait for her to give some of the handouts. All right, Bob Bello, 13301 Gulf Lane. Mayor and Commissioners, I'd like to start by saying I thought staff did a great job pulling together everything in the last workshop, and I'd like to thank them for doing that. But I'm going to ask the Commission to consider a small change to the parking proposal before you, rather than allowing paid off-street parking along Gulf Boulevard only as a temporary use that expires in 2028. I believe the city should consider a permanent regulatory framework for standalone parking along Gulf Boulevard. I kind of see two options for this. The first is similar to what the Commission has already been presented, which is a 2-year time frame. However, the current proposal sunsets at the end of 2028 and has no provision to continue. It's simply gone. So I might suggest the Commission considers making something similar to the city's rental process, which would be one option, which is the ability for the standalone parking lots, which would be by right with an inspection every 2 years, which is similar to the rental properties, which then has a $100 inspection fee or thereabout every 2 years. The other option would be a special exception use similar to what you have currently in C1, which I'll cover shortly, is that has about an $1,800 special magistrate fee. That sets the bar a little higher and gives the city a bit more control and may weed out those not serious about maintaining their property. But before we get too far into that, I think there's a couple questions. The first question is, you have to ask yourself, does the city want to have parking available to the residents and tourists along Gulf Boulevard? I would say the answer to that is yes, since we already have some. Next question is, do we want more? I would say the answer to that is yes, since it seems as though at the last workshop, all of the Commission voted in favor of moving this provision forward. The next question is, do we need more parking along Gulf Boulevard? I would say the answer to that question is yes, as evidenced by the picture in the packet, which was provided on a random non-holiday Sunday showing one of the lots in question full at noon. So does the city master plan support this? I think it does, and I'm going to share some quotes that are in the packet, direct from the city master plan. On page 59, it directs us to develop a citywide parking strategy. On page 39, update the off-street parking code in certain zoning districts to provide more flexibility for development and redevelopment. Again, on page 53, update the city's off-street parking code to allow flexibility to meet desired development patterns in the city. The important words there are flexibility. And, you know, that's something that the master plan is directing us to do. As you know, there's also within the master plan discussions about structured parking. I'm not going to go too much into that because I understand it seems possibly the garage is not feasible. So, but that would have just been one part of this entire strategy anyway. The master plan doesn't say that centralized structural parking would be the only parking solution, and from the sounds of our recent feasibility study, it may not be the most prudent approach. So the master plan calls for a citywide parking strategy, parking standards and regulations, changes to the off-street parking code, parking pricing, golf cart parking, rideshare locations, and transit alternatives. So is there a precedent in the city for this? Actually, there is. Ordinance 2019-18, a previous Madeira Beach Commission found, and I'm going to quote, "The City Commission finds it's necessary to provide alternate parking opportunities in tourist-oriented commercial areas." I think Gulf Boulevard would fall along those lines. The Commission chose specific regulatory mechanism. It allowed this standalone parking lots, and I'm quoting, "and parking garage as a principal use by special exception." So if the Commission decides to go this way, it's not a new land use concept we're inventing. Madeira Beach already determined that alternate parking can be appropriate in a tourist commercial area, and that special exception review is an appropriate way to regulate it. So I would ask, if the special exception review appropriate for standalone parking in one tourist commercial area in Madeira Beach is acceptable, why would it not be suitable in another tourist commercial area? I do think this is one of two viable options, or I guess you could say three if you want to have it sunset after the 2 years. But regarding the sunsetting in 2028, what changes in 2028 going into 2029 other than the date? That's where I have the greatest difficulty with the temporary use approach. Suppose the city approves a parking facility, it has safe access, it's landscaped, it complies with every condition, neighbors aren't adversely impacted, and people are using it. And it's an appropriate land use on December 31st, 2028. What happens on January 1st, 2029 that makes it bad? And what specific objective?
I'd like to see if he could continue. Extend his 5 minutes.
Do you have someone else to finish speaking for you? The problem is you're setting the precedent for everyone then, and that's the only problem.
Sure.
I want to hear what he has to say also, however, it's 5 minutes is our rule.
She doesn't have to read it. You can just take her time to continue.
No, he can't. You can't do that. You cannot do that.
Can I just say something?
Yes.
All I want to say is, and I appreciate what they're about to say, but the goal with this, and you're correct in with the stuff you said, but the goal with this is a kind of a quick opportunity to do what he's talking about. It's a much heavier lift, and it can be done, but that's a much longer process to turn things into the permanent parking. So I just kind of want to say that as we go through this, that the goal of this is a kind of an easier, short route to give a temporary time frame to start maybe looking at the heavier lift.
Okay.
So just so.
Sherry Padishaw, 161 131st Avenue, Madeira Beach. But regarding sunsetting it in 2028, what changes in 2028? This is where he has the greatest difficulty with the temporary use approach. Suppose the city approves a parking facility, it has safe access, it's landscaped, it complies with every condition, neighbors aren't adversely affected, and people are using it. If that's an appropriate land use on December 31st, 2028, what happens on January 1st, 2029? Does that suddenly make it bad? And which specific objective is accomplished by forcing an otherwise compliant parking facility to close simply because we've reached an expiration date? If our concern is inappropriate parking lots, address that concern directly through standards and/or the special exception review. He's not asking you to create permanent parking lots. He's asking you to create permanent regulatory framework. The underlying zoning remains. The development rights remain. If redevelopment becomes economically attractive, the owner remains free to redevelop. So ask, does prohibiting a productive use of vacant or unutilized property actually cause redevelopment? Or does it simply leave the property vacant until redevelopment becomes economically feasible? Another fair question was the concern some of the lots may change, too much, quote, and reflects poorly on the city. He totally gets that. But he thinks the way to address that is to have additional signage along Gulf Boulevard prominently displayed stating city parking is $4 an hour. We have it at our lots, but I don't see it along Gulf Boulevard as people drive into the parking. It is a real slippery slope for the city to say you are changing too much. Next, could the city say they want to regulate what you change for a grouper sandwich, what someone charges for their vacation rental? Closing to the master plan. So the master plan tells us develop a citywide parking strategy. It tells us to update the off-street parking code to provide more flexibility, quote, and our own ordinance 2019-18 says it is necessary to provide, quote, alternative parking opportunities in tourist-oriented commercial areas, quote. So in closing, it is his feeling that creating a permanent framework will fulfill one of the master plan objectives. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any additional public comment?
Hope I don't go run over because she was going to take mine. So we'll do our best. Mike Wyckoff, 161 131st Avenue. Thanks again for taking this up. And to Marcy's point, I know we're trying to get a quick fix to get some of this stuff done, but some food for thought from both of these. I know you heard some reasons for allowing the paid parking on the Gulf Boulevard on the east side by special exception for a 2-year term. But I want to approach this from a different direction and ask what outcome we're really trying to achieve along Gulf Boulevard, not just in the next 2 years, but over the next 5, 10, 20 years. I think we all really want the same thing. We want the properties developed in a quality way that's more friendly, walkable, creates a great cityscape. We want successful businesses, attractive Gulf Boulevard. We want to be able to get to our beaches and our businesses. We don't want vacant or underutilized properties sitting there indefinitely while owners wait for redevelopment to become feasible economically. But when you redevelop and add attractive business, you also need more parking. Just look at Caddy's, for example. Great redevelopment project, desperately short of parking. They had to buy a parking lot, 2 across the street, still don't have enough. So I believe what we're trying to talk about here in the bigger picture helps accomplish that goal. Parking doesn't prevent redevelopment. Nobody thinks that a parking lot is the highest and best use of every single Gulf Boulevard frontage lot. I'm in the real estate business. I can assure you it is not. But it is an excellent temporary use. We all thought hurricane recovery would be a year. Here we are 2 years later. We're not anywhere near done. So one concern that's brought up is if we allow property to generate revenue from parking, the owner may never redevelop it. I can tell you from personal experience, that's not the way it's going to be. But I don't have a firm timeline from even my own redevelopment, and I'm one of the affected parties. So I can't tell you that I can tell you there are other people there in the same boat. It's going to be a long road. But let's look at this for a minute. Gulf Boulevard property is very valuable. If an owner can get more by developing a hotel, restaurant, or retail project or other currently permitted project, that owner has a strong incentive to do it. Allowing parking doesn't change the underlying zoning. It doesn't disqualify the property from being redeveloped to something different in the future. The development rights stay there by right. And are we really encouraging redevelopment by prohibiting parking, or are we just requiring the property to produce little or no income while the owner tries to figure out what he can or can't do with that property that may or may not be economically feasible? Allowing the property to generate some income will help pay property taxes, insurance, landscaping, maintenance. It also helps the property ease the financial burden. I can tell you it was substantial after the storm. And there's an important financial question. If the owner doesn't have the financial resources right now to develop the property, how does eliminating a source of cash flow help that owner in any way to develop the resources necessary other than fire saling a property that they have no ability to redevelop? It really doesn't help at all. So which is better in the meantime, an empty or underutilized parcel or a property maintained and regulated property servicing providing a service people actually need? Try to go fast. Let the market tell us. If the parking lots are empty, then they're not useful. If they're full, then they are. If an owner establishes paid parking and nobody uses it, that tells us right away that we need to make a change and pivot. There is real parking demand at many of these locations. You see on the handout, Bob shared that with me earlier, there's a hole in the middle of the beach where there's no parking, very little parking. So mine in particular is right in the middle of that. And I know in the master plan, they talked about parking issues as well, and this could be a relief. It's also an economic development issue. Parking doesn't exist in isolation. It supports the businesses that people are trying to reach. hotels, restaurants, retail outlets. If people come and can't find a parking space, do you think they sit around hoping for the best? Nope, they turn around and they go away, and they go somewhere else. And then they complain about it on Nextdoor and on social media and talk about what a mess parking is, and then they don't come back, and then our businesses all suffer for it. We don't want to lose that economic activity after we're dealt with what we've been dealing with, and the potential also to lose income from property tax changes. Every year we're setting new tourist records. What happens after 2028 and beyond? We're still going to set records because people want to be here. We would just have less parking spaces and undeveloped properties. Oh, geez, I'm going fast here. A special exception or a 2 to 3 year renewal option preserves the city control. So we're talking about making this permanent with a renewal option. Special exception uses do not set a precedent. You can allow a special exception use on parcel A, and the parcel B applying for it has to stand on its own. There is case law, I'm sure Mr. Trask is familiar with that, but it does not set a precedent. And that's one thing that I know a question came up. If we give it to this guy, we have to give it to that guy. Certainly not the case. Yeah, so that's it. I think I just made it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. You had 4 seconds left. Do we have any additional public comment?
Hi, I'm Andrea Bello, 13301 Gulf Lane. Yeah, is that better? Okay. Mayor and Commissioners, I'd like to talk to you about what actually happens when people come to Madeira Beach and can't find a place to park. Whether we allow additional off-street parking or not, the cars are still coming. People are still going to be at our beaches, restaurants, businesses, and vacation rentals. So the question is, where do we want those cars to go once they get here? A parking shortage doesn't make cars disappear. When someone can't find a parking space, they don't necessarily turn around and drive home. They keep looking. They drive up and down Gulf Boulevard, turn onto side streets, circle blocks, and look for spaces in residential areas. And many times they use residents' parking spots, turn around in their yards, etc. So when we talk about limited parking, remember, not providing a parking space has negative unintended consequences. It simply creates another vehicle circulating while looking for somewhere to park. That's not better for Gulf Boulevard or the neighborhoods around it. When adequate parking isn't available near the destination, some of that demand gets pushed onto nearby residential streets. So I would ask, if this provision is sunset in 2 years with no plan in place to replace the parking which has been in use for some time now, what unintended consequences will we experience? A properly located private parking lot can act as a pressure relief valve, keeping visitor parking in the commercial corridor. That's not just a benefit for visitors, it's a benefit for the residents. The objective should be to provide parking throughout the city as the master plan states. If you look at the parking map, there are a lot of parking spots in the southern end of the city, but the further north you go, the less concentrated it is. Spread out with the visitors that will be beneficial for the businesses that are not located around Johns Pass. That will also provide parking options for the underutilized beach accesses that are primarily underutilized due to lack of parking. Madeira Beach is a long, narrow community. Our destinations aren't all located at Johns Pass. You have great options like the Reef, Dockside Daves, and others up in the middle of the city. Also, you could drive down Gulf Boulevard. There's not only a small handful of properties this parking situation could apply to. So no one is going to tear down a business and create a parking lot. When redevelopment does happen, it will create the need for additional parking as it will bring more tourists. So by allowing distributed parking along Gulf Boulevard, this will benefit the businesses near the lots and otherwise would have had less retail traffic. That's why our parking system can benefit from this distributed capacity. It is not that we are introducing new use on Gulf Boulevard. We already have parking there, and we know by the fact that these lots in questions are full that we have a parking capacity problem. This isn't simply about tourists. Residents use our restaurants, businesses, and beaches. Residents have friends and family visit, and residents experience the consequences when parking demand spills into neighborhoods. So I'll leave you with the following question. How do we follow the master plan and develop off-street parking options to manage visitors who are already coming here, not just for the next 2 years, but for the next 10 and 20, in a way that works better for all the people that live here? Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any additional public comment? Marcy, do you have anything?
I'll turn it over to Catherine for this, but yeah, so I didn't want to interrupt necessarily, but I wanted to let you guys know as you were, wanting to say those things that we do recognize that that is something we should be looking at, but this ideally is something we wanted to really stand alone and to be a temporary thing right now, because that's much easier. The other parts will come with the parking study that we're doing and workshopping with the community and things like that to start making those permanent changes to the code. So I just want to make sure we all stay on the same kind of path as related to this.
Okay, so here would be my question. Your goal now is for us to approve this that would take these lots that are currently in use and make them legal until 2028. And in the next 2 years, you anticipate that before the 2 years is up, we will have a permanent fix that would follow along with our master plan as we're changing our LDRs and everything and that we would get that permanent long-term fix.
Correct. We'd be able to then take the study, revisiting our code. We'll also be able to get great data from the temporary use lots as far as how those are used and occupied. So we'll be able to take all that and start putting something in our code that memorializes parking in a different way than it does now. So yes, I suspect that all will come within the next 2 years. We'll at least know what we're up against, whether or not everything will be officially changed. We'll have better direction and
Okay,
more
so
information.
let's say that in 2 years we're not done, and God, that just seems insane to me. It takes so long to change anything, right? But just for the sake of conversation, if at 2028 in December we were not done, we could come back, and we knew we were not going to be done. This could be brought back before us to extend it another year or 2 years. There's no question that parking is definitely an issue at times in the city. And my one comment would be on the staff's comment that people would choose to park in these private lots as opposed to the city lots. I don't really believe that. I don't think that anyone is going to choose to park on the other side of Gulf Boulevard when they can park on the beach side. So the beachside lots are going to fill up first, and then the other lots are going to fill up. In my view, that's the way it would happen. And then the other lots will fill up. So I don't see, that's the one thing that I saw that staff said that I didn't agree with. I don't believe that it's going to fiscally impact us in a great way. But, I understand that I agree with the comments that were made by the public that nobody's going to say I'm going to just keep it a parking lot forever because it's a, multi-million-dollar piece of property and I can make $10,000 a month on parking or whatever. That doesn't make sense either if they're in a position to do something. So I'm in agreement to do this, what you're doing now, but keeping mindful that we're moving forward for a permanent fix that would address parking related issues in the line with our master plan as it was written. Yes, that's my opinion.
That is
Commission,
correct.
do you have any comments or questions?
All right. So 2 years may be too short if we are looking at a bigger picture. Hurricane Helene was 2 years ago, and it just seems like yesterday. So spending money, landscaping, wheel stops, permitting, and this and that. So why don't we increase that to, let's say, 4 years? And also, it's a business, so they need to pull BTR, business tax receipts, so that we can have a record of who's doing what. They will have to obtain all the permits from other agencies, i.e. DOT, SwiftMud, whatever. So just by us issuing the permit, it doesn't mean that we're relieving them from other agencies to be obtaining the permits. I'm okay with 4 years. 2 years may be a bit too short.
I'm also inclined to increase it past 2 years. We definitely need more parking, and the key word here is flexibility. and that can meet the needs of the residents and the tourists alike. I believe that down the road, then we will look at our options that we have and then go from there. But yeah, definitely, I totally agree.
Okay. What ordinance we have in place with the special exception uses, what's the difference between that as opposed to all of this? I mean, could they get a special exception uses right now as opposed to going through all of this?
So this ordinance has reduced standards. So you've got reduced landscaping, reduced you're not being required to pave anything other than the accessible spaces. So there's a lot of reductions in this ordinance as to what you have to provide compared to a permanent parking lot. So just want to put that on the record. But basically, right now in the zoning districts along Gulf Boulevard, which are primarily C3 and R1, parking, standalone parking is not a permitted use at all, period. Not through special exception, not otherwise. In Johns Pass Village, it's a little bit different. There are 6 character districts within the village, and 2 of them do allow standalone parking lots through special exception use. The other 4 do not. Those are the highly commercial areas like the actual shops areas. So right now, these are not uses, and this goes back to what Marcy was saying about studying this, studying the need, checking, what needs to be done and where we need to provide, what areas of the city need parking. So this allows a use that is not allowed in most of these areas at all right now.
And just to clarify, if you have a building like with Caddies, you can build additional parking and sell it because the parking is ancillary to the restaurant. So with the master plan, the idea was to have flexibility where, so obviously Caddies is not open at all hours of the day, so their pay for parking is being used outside of their business hours. So it allows for the parking to be used for their restaurant and for beachgoers, and it gives them the flexibility. But the idea is to still have redevelopment and have physical buildings again built.
Well, I guess, where's the special exception uses being utilized? I mean, there's a couple of parking lots on Gulf Boulevard that are just parking lots and they're pay per whatever. And we have the city parking lot on 133rd that is, how did that one become there? I mean, and so, and I guess I'm just trying to determine, to kind of help these people out. We had this idea, and if we're setting up guidelines for 2 to 4 years down the line, I mean, I don't think that this is what their end goal was. As they all said, parking is not going to be a big revenue. It's just going to be something that's bringing money in. And, some of these stipulations that you have on here, it's just like, it just seems to be quite extensive to me.
We tried to write the ordinance with the minimum requirements that we could. We cannot override FDOT permitting. We cannot override SwiftMud permitting. We do, I've talked to Al Carrier about this, and we do think that a lot of these sites would qualify for an exemption from SwiftMud because they had buildings and parking on there before. So it may just be an exemption letter rather than a full-scale, permit from SwiftMud, but we as a city cannot override those state requirements. And we did reduce the landscaping, we did reduce the paving, we did reduce the buffering, we did reduce the size of the spaces on small lots and the size of the drive aisles. So these are already exceptions to what's in our code now.
If we went the special exception route, they would have to meet the full requirements in our code for a parking lot.
Are some of those parking spaces compact, do we have compact parking spaces?
Yes, so on these smaller lots, the lots that are 50 feet or less in width, we did allow them to have all compact spaces, with the exception, of course, the accessible spaces,
And
which
they would
have to
still
meet
have-
the federal requirements.
They still would have to meet ADA, right?
Yes, you always have to meet that.
Would have to
There's
be-
no exception to that.
That would have to be paved.
Yes. that has
Okay,
to
so
be
Andrew,
paved.
you hit it on the head. If they go for the special exception uses, they would have to have a full-blown on parking lot.
Yes, so that's why we created this ordinance that has reduced standards, but still standards that they have to meet.
So it's modified standards for basically for temporary parking.
Correct.
Correct, yeah.
Thank you. Oh, one final thing though, the dates. Your dates are all off, I believe. Let me see this one thing here. We don't have a workshop on 10/14. It's 9/14 today? No. Your date's on page 2 of the,
Well, I think the planning commission meeting for September, we moved it to the 14th because of, but I can double check the BOC meetings then.
Well, the intent is to bring it back in October and November, because that's the soonest that we could get it back here unless we have a special meeting.
That would meet on the 14th. And it would be a first reading. Right, it would have to be.
and do we have 11/18?
Calendar in front of me.
Okay, cool, my bad. I got it wrong. Thank you.
So, thank you, Commissioners. You helped answer a lot of my questions. So, but what's come to me now is I see 3 questions being discussed. Do we need parking? Yes, but we have a feasibility study report that's coming up to answer some of those issues. Do we need to do something with the lots that are empty, so they're not just sitting empty? Absolutely. And that's the one that I'm going to address now, not the question about extending it to make it permanent. That's, as Marcy suggested, a deeper and more detailed conversation. So in its strengths, it's temporary. We definitely have a deadline on it. It sounds like Commissioner Gavai wants to discuss that deadline, but there is a 2-year deadline on it, and it helps damaged properties generate revenue. So by those items, I'm in favor of it. Does it become more profitable than redevelopment? I think that's become clear that it's really not going to be. Impact on sitting parking, I can't imagine, but I'm not an expert. But has the staff estimated how many parking spaces could potentially be created under this ordinance? Or is that a
No,
step too far?
We pushed this through to bring this back
I
as
gotcha.
quickly as
Sure.
possible, so.
So you haven't had a chance to model in the impact? No, of
Yeah,
course not.
that is more of a transportation study that would come into, determining where this parking lot need is.
Right, got it. What about the estimated number of parcels that would qualify for this temporary use? Should we consider a cap on permits or parking spaces?
I think there's maybe a max of 10 spots.
Yeah, okay.
I think we're really talking about the vacant lots that we
Just the
see as
vacant
we
lots.
drive
So-
up and down the
okay.
beach. So
All right.
I don't think anybody's going to tear down a building to do this. I'm
Right.
assuming that if you can repair your building, that's what you're going to do.
Right.
But we don't have any statistical data to go with that.
Okay, thank you. There's a lot of things that came to my mind. Will the temporary parking lots be reported to the commission on a regular basis? Are there any thoughts about, or should we?
That we won't own them. They're not ours. We don't get reports on any private lots in the city. That's none of our concern. Our concern is what the city owns.
So that's a concern. Because
Why?
we're not.
Yeah, but it's not ours. I mean, we should be focused on our lots and.
Well, sure, but.
You can't regulate what they charge.
No, I
You
understand
can't
that.
regulate their hours if they say you can, whatever. So I don't think that's something that we should be trying to be in the weeds on.
Mayor?
We should be more concerned about our own.
As a part of a special exception, you can actually put certain criteria. You can say that, $4 per hour.
Can't. No, you cannot.
Well, as a part of your special exception, you should be able to dictate that.
I believe the city attorney instructed us that we could not dictate price.
That's correct. There's a state statute that tells us we
Period.
cannot do that.
Right. And I don't want to. If you want to have a private lot and you want to be the bad guy and charge $50 a day for somebody to park there, you be the bad guy. I want the city to be mindful of our lots and what we provide. And if we need to provide more parking lots that the city owns or the city needs to build something, then the city needs to be focused on that. I think the purpose of this when it came to us was because we had a handful of lots that lost their businesses or lost the whatevers that were on them during the storm. And as was stated here by a owner, we're 2 years later and they still don't know what they're going to do yet. They still haven't. This gives the property owner the means to be able to temporarily, so there's, and what staff had said, they've removed all of these requirements that a special exception would give. They removed all the requirements so that you can put a lot there without paving it, other than the handicap spot, and allow the property owner to try to make some money to help pay their property tax, and until they are able to do something or can make their mind up what to do, or the economy can allow it, or the whatever can allow it, whatever, because that's not our concern. But what it does for the city is, we do not always have a parking issue in the city. We do not have a parking issue every weekend. But there are times when there is a real parking issue. And I would agree with what was stated here today, that there is an area in our city where there isn't parking. So I'm not against what staff has brought us. I'm not against it at all. To me, the question is, so they've already stated that they're looking at a long-term fix for what would happen with this long-term. I think the question is, based off of this conversation, is 2028 long enough? Or do you want to extend it to 2029 or 2030 for this specific fix? Or do you want to leave it at 28 and say we can revisit this in 27 if it doesn't look like we're going to get a fix by 28 and extend it then? That's the question in my mind. Staff has already said they believe we should do this.
I do have one other question. Can they lease their land to some of these bigger operations? Or should we put a restriction that they cannot lease the parking to another entity?
I don't think you should be involved in that private business. If they decide that they want to have somebody lease it from them and they just get whatever fee for that, and then the parking company go ahead and do that, then I don't see why you would want to control that. Because I think the object here is to give the benefit to the property owner so they can make some money on it. If they've determined that it's better for them to have somebody else do it for them, then I would think that you would want that. But I didn't talk to Marcy or anyone else in the city staff about that particular issue, so maybe they have a comment or thoughts on it too.
Because then for sure they'll be charging $20.
Okay, so when this came before us the first time, I drove Gulf Boulevard and specifically looked for lots that we're discussing. They're already being managed by somebody else. If I owned a piece of land on Gulf Boulevard and I wanted to put 15 parking spaces on it, I don't have the means or to collect the money. I would have to hire somebody else to do that for me and then get a portion. And that is what is going on now. If you drive down Gulf Boulevard, now they may not be, I don't know what they're charging. They may not be charging what that one does down in Johns Pass that we get some negative pushback on, but they're being managed by, I'm not going to say all of them are, but the majority of what I saw, I am certain is already being managed by somebody else. So I don't think that that's not for this commission to try to micromanage. I wouldn't want someone to micromanage who I could rent my condo to, as long as I'm renting within the confines of what the law says.
And I've just reviewed the ordinance a little bit deeper. There is a provision in a very top of page 59 of your agenda packet. It talks about whether it's an owner operator or not, and contact information for the operator of the lot. So there is that's already addressed. So city staff has drafted this in such a way that it can be someone other than the owner actually doing the operation of the lot.
More questions keep getting answered. My next one was, which department be responsible for monitoring compliance with these temporary parking lots? So that's going to be up to them. That's not going to be on us, right? Monitoring the enforcement of these parking lots.
So there are provisions in here under the standard conditions that they, upon notice, they have to bring this parking lot into compliance, or they lose the ability to continue using the parking lot. So that's going to fall under CDD and under code enforcement.
Okay, what about, okay, got that. What about the actual writing tickets? That's them, right?
It's their property.
Okay, got it.
Yep.
Now, we talked about reducing the impact on the neighbors. I have concerns because it's going to create headlights, noise, litter, pedestrian traffic, late night activity. Are we concerned that this will have a negative impact on our residents? Because there are some right, the next street over, right next to these parking lots. Have we considered greater buffering or operational conditions for the lot adjacent just to the residential areas?
Yes, we have. On page 61, middle of the page, we have, when abutting residential use, a minimum of a 4-foot solid fence or wall along any property line abutting residential use or across an alley from residential use. So there does need to be a buffer there.
Thank you. I'm sorry I missed
Yes.
that. Thank you. That's very clear. So I would consider this ordinance, this discussion, and more discussions on longer terms. I don't have a strong opinion about the length of time. I wouldn't want to go much farther than 4, I guess 5, but I wouldn't want to go too much longer. But I mean, I'm fine with 2 years also.
Yeah, just like the mayor's said, we can address it again in 2028 and then 2 years and then go from there also.
But let's do pay attention to neighbor complaints alongside these parking, because that's part of what they're required to do. So generally, I'm in favor of this.
But then what about the special exception will still be good, and if we decide to continue, in other words, extend it, then they won't have to go back before the board, right? That special exception should still hold.
Then we come to the existential question, do we want parking lots of this nature or on Gulf Boulevard? I think that's a higher level question, right? Because we're
yes,
talking
we do.
about making it easier and easier every single year. I don't know. That's your answer.
If it's going to be vacant, might as well get some use out of it. And I hear the residents, and I would love for them to be able to enjoy the land and pay their bills and so forth and so on. So I really do like to suggest, let's do it at 4 and then revisit after 4 years. And then they can come back and, want to extend it.
But isn't that what's happening? Can't they? They already can come back after the term limit.
No, this specifically ends in 2028. What Hoosh is saying, or Commissioner is saying, is instead of 2028, have it end in 2030. That's what he's saying. Right? Am I correct?
Yes,
That's what you're saying.
They're spending money and effort and
Sure, I said
special
4 years.
exception.
No, but that's all he's saying is extend it to 2030 instead of 2028. And then if in the meantime, the city rewrites our codes and ordinances to align with the master plan and makes some adjustments to the
Right.
parking, what have you.
And auto renewal is already left out of this. It's not going to happen automatically. So,
That's correct.
okay, yeah, I'm okay with that.
Well, now as I'm looking all the criteria that they have to meet, how about just do it 2 years from when it's approved?
So this is the problem with a temporary use ordinance. It has to have a sunset date in it in order for it not to be indefinitely extended for years and years and years under a state of emergency. So I think I brought this up earlier, but when Helene and Milton came, we were already under a state of emergency, the entire state of Florida, from Hurricane Ian, which was 2 years earlier. So we have been under a state of emergency basically forever. So nothing expires. Nothing, no permit expires, no development order expires. None of those things expire until you hit a 4-year mark, just based on the past experience. I mean, if we're hopefully so lucky that we have no more hurricanes in the state of Florida in the next couple of years, maybe that wouldn't happen. But the reason it's written with a date certain is because this is a temporary use that we're granting temporarily while we do the studies, while we figure out what we need to do with the zoning code overall.
Thank you.
So, and I guess I wasn't able to read in here. So as of right now, it's 2 years from implementation or 2 years at the end of?
All parking lots would cease operation on December 31st, 2028, the way it's written.
Who's just suggesting?
All of these temporary lots. Now, some of these areas have the ability to come in as a special exception and establish a permanent special exception parking lot, but not all of these zoning districts allow that.
And to do that in C3 would be a whole different topic and another ordinance, like separate from this that's being shown today.
Thank you.
Well, what is your opinion? You have to have one. She's got to have some directive.
Well, I mean, I'm not really too sure about it, but yet it's moving in the right direction. I mean, I know the time frame. That's what I was just, okay, so January 28 or no, December 31st of 28?
We're trying to make sure we get this ordinance through and they got the 2 years that the commission asked us to give them as a
Should be from the
minimum.
date that they obtained the permit.
It's not 2 years from the date, it's this use sunsets on December 31st, 2028,
Right.
the way it's written.
So my opinion would be do it December 31st, 29. I mean, I think that would be enough time.
Just to be different.
No.
He's meeting in the middle.
4 years is long. I mean,
What's your year?
I said I didn't have a strong opinion.
Yeah, what's your
I'm
year?
fine 2, 3, or 4. I'm fine
A
with.
decision.
I'm fine with 3.
Three.
Or
I'm sorry.
So we
Four.
3, 3, 4, 4. Mayor, you're actually 3, and then go from there.
I'm 4. Why not? I mean, what is the significance of 3?
I mean,
Give
I
them more
don't,
time.
Marcy, do you, give us something. So in my mind, here's where my mind thinks, is I totally understand. Rarely do we get people who come to our meeting and take the time to come prepared, to have the conversation, even when it affects them, because a lot of people have things that affect them. They don't show up, they don't come to the meeting, and then, they take their frustrations out on social media or what have you, which is fine. We all get that right. But when somebody takes the time to come, they take the time to do the research, and I read into this before I came, so I understand the ask, right? What I'm trying to understand is, and I feel like based off what information I've received, the staff understands the ask as well and does not disagree with what was asked of us today. The question is, or the statement is, we're going to reach some sort of compromise on the ask, and that's going to happen. It's how long is it going to take to happen? So can we do that in 2 years? Or is it going to take 3 years? Or is it going to take 3 years and a month? So if we go 4 years with this ordinance, and then these individuals who have the lots have their lots, and they don't have any worries with something else coming up and a new commission coming in and going, oh, no, I don't like that, we're going to make that go away. So do we want to give the 4 years so that they have faith in that maybe next year something will happen and they'll rebuild on their lots or they'll do what have you, but that they get the time and that possibly in the meantime, city staff will make all of the changes that need to be made or whatever it is your vision is for that. And maybe that'll happen in year 2 or year 2.5 or 3 or what have you. So what are your thoughts on why would we not go 4 years and go 2 or go 3?
She's had experience with this, so I was going to let her
speak. Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, so I do think that temporary parking lots are not the highest and best use of your city's property from a tax base, from a development base, from a visitor base. But that's my opinion. That's not, I don't have data to go with that. I do know that these quite often become nuisance properties. And my concern is, I think 2 years gives us a chance to see if it works. We could always come back and change it to be another year, or we could make it 3 years now or 4 years now. That's really up to you. But I really think you want to look at your long-term vision of the city, your master plan. What do you want to have in these areas?
And to Catherine's points, it's the nuisance part of it that we can prepare for it, we've experienced it, but we don't know exactly, we're opening it up. So we're not sure what all we're going to get from it, what complaints and negative impacts. We've tried to think of all of them, right? The 4 years does seem a bit long. And I do like what Catherine said about bringing it back. Obviously, you mentioned, changing in commissioners and an intent like that. So maybe this splitting the difference, going with the 3 years and being able to learn from this decision and not creating nuisance properties that we lose too much control over. But we also did try to put in the caveat that if you are if you're not a good steward of this opportunity, then we have the opportunity to revoke that use of it. So we tried to protect ourselves to the extent possible. And the goal is less about we're trying to achieve a parking goal. The goal has been really to give property owners who had not planned to lose use of their property, who lost their building, just give them the opportunity to breathe and think and not make decisions trying to be reactive. So that is the goal, is really for the people who were impacted during Helene and Milton unexpectedly to really help them earn some money while they figure out what they want to do with the property. And that is the goal. We're not trying to solve a parking problem necessarily with the solution, but we do know it's a helpful solution. So kind of keep that in mind too with this decision. I do feel like maybe the 3 years, splitting the difference from the 4, and then being open to bringing it back before you guys.
I would totally agree with the staff and the board. I believe 3 is fair. Meet in the middle and reevaluate at that time. That's my opinion.
Well, and that's what, as I'm just reading here, I didn't think about the nuisance part. I'm right next to you here. I didn't think about the nuisance part. But yet, as I'm looking in here, you can be noticed or you can be notified, and in 15 days from the notice, failure temporary parking lot into compliance within 15 days, the cause for approval, temporary parking lot to be revoked. So with that, I feel it's very good. And here going into the thing like, here we're 2 years after the hurricane, and look at all the mess we have. Look at all that we had the sheriffs talking about the overgrown stuff, but yet, is there any teeth in this? So if they start trying to do a parking lot and they feel that, then they find out they can't make any money at it, so they're going to basically abandon it. So then you're going to be back here, 30 days after trying to revoke it. What's going to happen then? So I'm kind of both ways.
And what Catherine says, goes back to what I asked earlier. What's the big picture, the existential question? What do we want to see on Gulf Boulevard? And I know you've heard this from your residents. Why doesn't the city do something about that? Well, we don't own that.
Well,
and that's exactly what we're talking about, is places that we don't own. So I think it's important that we look at that big picture as we go on. And I'm still supporting 3 years.
3 years.
So,
Commissioner Dillon?
Yeah, 3 years.
3.
So you.
Commissioner McGeehan? Commissioner?
Well, I like 4, but I'm not going to say no for
Okay.
3, because if
So
I did,
I-
I'd be objecting to the whole thing.
I think a compromise of 3 is a good compromise, and then following through and just be mindful that this is a conversation we had, and it's something you want to get moved forward for the community. So there you go.
So December 31st, 2029 would be the new date?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is code enforcement, general overview, and the abandoned swimming pools.
So speaking of enforcing, I'm going to have Stephanie come up here and join me as well, our new code compliance supervisor. I had asked Corey to stay, but I think there was some confusion over the contract conversation and then this conversation. So Corey has left. If there's anything that's asked of us that we can't readily answer, I'll commit to getting those questions and then getting those answers to you. But hopefully we can address everything.
We don't do it again. We've already done it once.
So obviously we have the memos in the agenda packet. The main goal of this was, as Mike is onboarded and as I have started taking over the code enforcement aspect of it and bringing on a code compliance supervisor, there has been a lot of questions as to what exactly does the Pinellas County Sheriff's Office do, which we got some insight on today. What does city staff do? And some of the challenges that we have with code enforcement, and specifically like the pools that we've taken to code and the process that we follow and that we are required to follow. So wanted to bring this before you guys, answer some questions that you guys may have specific to our code enforcement process. I will tell you what we're doing now that historically wasn't being done, and we're doing a much better job of that, is with the onboarding of Stephanie, we started having biweekly code enforcement meetings. Those include city staff and the Pinellas County Sheriff's Office. We discuss what we're doing, what's working, what's not working, what hot cases are we struggling with, and what do we see the best ways to proceed forward with those cases are. We've gotten a lot better with documenting an MGO. Before, it was in a file folder somewhere, and you'd have to go hunt for it. But now we're using MGO much more aggressively to track properties. Even if properties, let's say, become compliant right when we make contact with you, we're still putting that in MGO now. That way we can say, oh, geez, we have to contact you every 45 days. This is becoming a nuisance. So we're starting to create trackable conversations and results, which is making me feel better. We still have work to do, and I own that. We have a lot of construction going on, and so there's a lot to manage there, from the erosion control, damage to city infrastructure, being present for that. So we are trying to meet those needs, and I know it's frustrating, especially the overgrown grass, which Corey touched on, the pools, which Corey touched on. We do get people who complain, but sometimes they don't assign a name, an address to that. And without that, we can't go onto private property. And even the example he gave is perfect. We run into cases all the time where they get you out there, they run you upstairs or wherever, then they start having second thoughts because, to their point, they're like, oh, now you know where that picture came from. So that does happen. So please encourage your constituents to, if they want to report something, let's get their name and their address. We are working with our communications to get we do have, actually, I'll let Stephanie, we've put the link on the site, so make it much easier for the residents.
Yeah, so we are working on, they have added
I don't think your microphone's on. Oh.
There you go. They have added a clickable button on the building compliance site of our city website. You just click it, and you can fill out the form, and you submit it, and it comes directly to us now. There are a few kinks we have to work out on that, so hopefully in the next day or so, that'll be 100%. I'm also requested that be placed on the main page of the Madeira Beach website, so on the home page itself, to make it easier for people to file complaints.
Stephanie, did you say that's on the MGO site?
No, that is on our city website. If you go to the building.
The button to, okay.
Yes.
City
Yeah.
website.
And that happened today, so.
Oh.
Where's
you
it
may-
at?
Under
Under
you
building,
know?
under building compliance.
building compliance. Great.
Perfect. Yep. Oh, yes, having that, so when you're on the building department, it's right here, code compliance. So having that on the front page of the city's website would be fantastic. Yeah, that's awesome.
And along with that too, what we're going to do is, she's, Stephanie, by the way, if you haven't met Stephanie, she's the code compliance supervisor. She's been here, she's much more senior than Mike, I think, or by one day, I believe. Yeah, is the difference here. So, but she's done an amazing job about, now I have one person to go to, and then that person gets with the sheriff's office, gets with the city staff. So that's going really well. She's been working on communication. I know we're actively working on a FAQ basically to hand out to the public, encourage our coded staff to get out, talk to people who are working in their lawn. Hey, if you have any questions, issues, here's the non-emergency number. Here's how you can file complaints. So we're going to make that much more user-friendly and identifiable. So we're working through those options and trying to make that just more user-friendly for the community.
Great.
And with that, I'll just we'll be up here to just let you guys discuss and answer some specific questions. And Mike, I'm not sure if you had anything you wanted to chime in on as well at this stage.
So I have a question. I rode with code, and I have not in some time, I have not ridden with the current staff that you have doing code in the city. But when I rode, we had two code compliance individuals that worked in the building department, and they drove the city twice a day. And it was amazing to me how quickly you could drive the entire city and drive in front of every single house in the city. And do you ever ride behind them to see if they missed something? And here's why I ask the question. Because often when you drive the same route on a regular basis, you become numb to some things. Like you could see, you've driven past it so many times that you just don't even see it anymore. Or you've driven past something and you quit seeing that something because you've seen it so much. So are you spot checking? Not that I'm saying staff needs to be spot checked, but to see if they're falling into that tunnel vision, which, I mean, we all do it, right?
Yes, and that's a great point. That was one of the things that Stephanie and I kind of were touching on today. And to your point, it is more of some of our sites are really bad. We get them good, and you're happy with good, but we need to push for better and best sometime too. So those are the things. So to your point, it is, investing in the training and sharing with them what I'm seeing that I think needs to be addressed and making sure we're on the same page, because it's definitely evolved some. So we are talking about doing follow-up checks and then sharing with them maybe something we're concerned that they're maybe not catching. And if maybe there's just a general misunderstanding we can identify of the enforcement protocol with that particular issue. And obviously protecting infrastructure is a huge thing. And so working with Megan for our team to do a very proactive job in those areas, we're evolving there as well.
We talked about this, I think, in the break, but takes a village, right? I'd be interested to understand maybe how beneficial it would be if anybody that's in a city vehicle was driving the city and saw something and just had some system of passing that on, and maybe you already know about it, maybe you don't, so that then we're not just telling the public, two people and our deputies are doing all of this, but collectively as a city, every employee that is driving in a city vehicle is being mindful to, not that it's their quote unquote job, but that they're being mindful if they see something, they pass it on, and then they forget about it, and but maybe they see the same thing for 4 weeks in a row and it didn't change, and they might, say, oh, hey.
Exactly. And Public Works is very good. The Public Works team is very good about communicating that with us. The team that even Megan Webfred brought up, bringing in parking, because they're driving around so much. So arming them with the flyers, getting out, talking to people, those are excellent ideas. And I do think that we want to be able to share that with other teams and come up with a program to help educate and support the parking in those areas.
I think that's a great idea.
So I sent some questions to Marcy at the last minute. I'm so sorry, but the good news is that the Sheriff's Department answered a lot of them, and you've answered a lot of questions. But I had just a couple more. Can you distinguish between code violations that are primarily handled by PCSO versus those handled by community development? And are there any categories, responsibilities have historically been unclear? Is there a gray area where you're not sure who gets what?
I would say yes, there has been gray areas, and we're working to clearly define those, increasing how we communicate as well. So I know short-term rentals was definitely one that I felt like there was some misunderstanding as to, what our city staff was allowed and capable of doing versus Pinellas County Sheriff. So once we start clearing that up and they start working together, for instance, if Taylor finds an address that's being illegally short-term rented, she'll reach out to Corey, he'll make contact, but then what we're doing that we haven't historically done very well is then we're going into MGO and we're documenting, we've identified this house, Taylor contacted Corey, and things like that. Also with, we're also working on the details in those notes too, getting them less shorthand, more succinct, and a little bit more of a story so that we understand. But the intent too with that flyer that we talked about is if you have this problem, this is definitely non-emergency Pinellas County Sheriff's. However, if it's these issues, you can contact us or give people those options because we do feel like it's not been very clear, even to the staff themselves. So
that'd be very helpful. Just to be clear, the overgrown grass, the dogs on the beach, unleashed dogs, that's not something that city code compliance addresses.
We would address overgrown grass and debris in a lot. We would not address dogs on a leash and that kind of stuff.
So to tag on to what Mayor Brooks suggested, I see that parking enforcement and of course code enforcement, they're all over the city. Is it possible to give them like warning, like let them know they're not in compliance walking that dog off a leash, you're not in compliance being here, and then make a report? I don't know if that's possible, but I think that's more eyes on the problems. I don't know where we would go from there, but that's something I was thinking of.
I think the leash dogs and stuff like that, maybe we'd probably have to get some clarity around approaching people like those items, but
in your car,
we can definitely, to your point, do a push to get more information out there. Arm them with, hey, no dogs on the beach, FAQs, and maybe they're just handing those out to say, hint, hint.
Let them know.
You have your dog on the beach.
As it's been suggested, the sheriffs can't be everywhere.
Correct.
Understand, and code compliance can't be everywhere. But all these people together, they can be in a lot of places. I asked you about the open cases. I don't know if that's something that we want to discuss now, but are there any of these open cases that you want to highlight or anything that you think is important for us to know about?
Stephanie, is there any particular cases?
Like the number of cases open for more than, or 120 open more than 60 days, something like that.
So I think the high number that you're seeing is we do have a lot of cases that are still outstanding due to, I guess, FEMA violations that were reported to the city after the hurricanes with no additional information. So no actual description as to what those FEMA violations were. We're trying to clean up that list by other cases that we have generated ourselves. So if we have other cases that we identify FEMA violations and they also correspond back to those addresses linked to those case numbers, then we're able to clear some of that out. So that's why you're seeing a higher number than probably what you would like.
Okay, that makes sense.
And some of them are legacy ones that we were not maybe closed out during previous staff's time here. So we're going through and we're cleaning out the ones that have been closed out. Sometimes they may have resolved it, but they didn't do like an affidavit of compliance, so it didn't get correctly closed out. So we're working on cleaning that up.
Right.
And a little bit about the FEMA violations. So those come from the National Violation Tracker List, and that is sent to us through NFIP, through whatever means and methods, whether it's pictures whoever is reviewing them comes across, whether it's during a visit by the insurance company and they take photos. The FEMA identifies homes that seem to have a violation. The biggest one you'll find is a bathroom downstairs. So if that shows up in a picture, that address goes on this federal list, and that list becomes available to us. It is a protected list, so we cannot share addresses. It's protected under, Tom can probably quote why it's protected.
It's federal law.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
We can't use that information that we gain through that process to prosecute a case because it's protected.
Right.
So we have to come about, find our own evidence and our own testimony to get to that point,
So people are on a secret list that nobody knows about that we can share. And the reason we did go through and at least activate them is such that when we are audited, we can show them how we're addressing this list and how we're doing it organically. So that's why those are there. They're placeholders as we come to other issues. But mainly some of the older ones are just closing out old cases that just maybe weren't properly completed or got lost in the mix. So we're working through those.
So what are the largest obstacles preventing us from resolving these? And I'm talking, when I say quality of life ordinances, you've already told me that that's not stuff that the city normally addresses: dogs on the beach, leash violations, noise violations, chronic nuisance property. You do address overgrown lots. Seems like some of the obstacles might be a lack of coordination between the sheriffs and the city. Are there other obstacles or?
I think the coordination between us and the Pinellas County, I think by having the meetings on a regular basis and having open discussion, that's becoming less really of an issue. We do have, again, I hate to say this, but it's our code does limit us a lot. In working with Mary Ellen, who's just onboarded, we have identified some areas that we can actually touch and start making our code enforcement procedures a little more strict, coming up with a better finding structure for repeat offenders and things like that. So we're going to go through and start looking at where we can tighten our codes up, where SB 180 will allow us and we don't violate that. So the biggest issue is having the teeth in our code that is not vague or conflicting and that you can really sink your teeth into, because I know Tom gets questions from us all the time about, can we enforce it this way? And sometimes the answer is no, we can't. So then we have to figure out, what do we need to fix in the code so that we can better respond to some of this stuff in a timely fashion? And, looking at what other communities are doing too is something else we've always been doing, but are actively still doing to help improve our code enforcement codes.
Well, thank you for this item on the agenda. I appreciate the clarification. It sounds like you guys are working to improve this whole system. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
I've got one big one. Okay, so I've gone onto the homepage. You go to the homepage, and here's a beautiful thing here down there, report a problem. So you go to report a problem, and the report a problem is having issues. So you scroll over that, but then there's another area, how to report a code violation. I don't know that many of the residents realize what a code violation is. So I think so people that, they got rats running in their backyard because all these people have their overgrown stuff.
Where did you go?
So you're just saying report a nuisance or just rewords? Okay.
Yeah,
Understood.
because okay, so you go to homepage, and rather than go in the building, here it is, right big, report a problem. So rather than going into the building department, there it is, it's great. So when you go to report a problem, well, the report a problem, the hover over report a problem is not working, but that's where I think.
It doesn't work, it's brand new. They
Okay.
just did that today, and the link just isn't correct. It's brand new, so I would say they'll have that fixed.
Well, okay, well then put that down below though. So it's not the first thing you see, because if you're gonna report a problem, many of the people, and and I've been here too, in terms of we're told that you gotta go on and do it, and when you go onto that site, the report a code violation, first thing is it comes up with your name, number, and name and phone number.
Because you have to give your name.
But I heard that you didn't have to do your phone number. Name and
The address, yeah. So we're working
Okay.
with that, yeah. So it's
I
name
mean,
and
and
address.
this is, I'm first going into this because you people have said, the staff has said that, go ahead and report these, and you have to do it, with your name and stuff.
Correct.
So I had to learn how to do it So I can tell people, okay, so here it is, you report a problem. Here's your problem. You got a problem, you got rat stuff and mosquitoes and all that, so here's how you do it.
Correct.
So this was my new time doing this. I was like, wow.
Well, it just got done today. It literally just got done today. So anytime something's brand new, there's always going to be kinks. This is brand new. They just sat out here during the break between our budget workshop and this and said that it was done. It was on the webpage. So there's a glitch.
I'm getting words from other people that it's working, so we'll something's going on, we'll figure it out for sure. Yeah.
So what he's talking about is when you log in and you go and you're on the main page, there's a button that says report a problem. When you hit report a problem, there's a top button that says report a problem that doesn't work.
Okay.
And then there's a button that says report a code violation. That one works.
We'll definitely get that cleaned up. It's
a glitch,
confusing,
so
mixed messaging, yep, so.
If we hadn't talked about it, nobody would even know it was there. Somebody would have found it.
Yes, we would hear about it.
Anything additional for Marcy or her team? Do we have any public comment? Then thank you, Marcy, and your team. And next on the agenda would be respond to public comment. We did not have any, however, the city manager and Public Works Director, Megan Wepfer, have provided us with a landscape plan for Kitty Stewart Park, and I believe that Megan is going to come up and give us a presentation on it.
I believe it will be shown on TV.
Tom, can you turn the TVs on?
It's on.
Beautiful, thank you. So I apologize for not getting this into the packet, but in front of you, you have what I have on the screen. I did realize that there was a minor issue with my my paver lineup, if you will, so I've corrected that and flattened the page so I don't move anything around. So I've been asked to provide you all with a landscape plan, and that is what you have in front of you. You will have different emblems that are on the right-hand side of what that emblem shows. So you have a variation of palm trees and different types of plants. I am here to answer any questions that you may have.
Do we have any public comment? Commission, do you have any comments for Megan or questions?
Is Blue Days a tree or a shrub or a ground cover?
Ground cover.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
How is this going to be able to be maintained? It looks beautiful maybe, but is it drought tolerant? Is it saltwater friendly?
These are all drought tolerant, salt tolerant plants. With that being said, we will still need to install irrigation in the park, because while a lot of these are drought tolerant, salt tolerant, some are more than others. And in order to keep them looking pretty with the flowers, they will need water, so we will need to install irrigation.
This looks beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's the same
Like a tropical
schematic that when you and I walked that Tom and Kitty Stewart Park area, right?
Where I showed you the landscape areas,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
Yes.
Fantastic.
Megan, please explain the fence.
There is one addition to this, and that is the fence that is between Tom and Kitty Stewart Park and Beach Flower. The reason for the optional note on here is due to their landscaping that they have installed. If anyone has looked at that, it is right on the property line, growing over into our property. So the easiest way to keep that maintained for us is install a fence to hold back their landscaping and to give us the 3 feet that we should have. Right now, it's probably growing a foot over, if not more, because they're not taking care of it, and it's fenced off.
Could you go ahead and install the fence now?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yes.
before-
We were just, Mike and I had just had that conversation, so we wanted to kind of provide this to you all and get your feedback.
I like the landscaping. I like how many palm trees you put in. I like all of the flowering plants. I think that it It should be something that the community that wanted more foliage there should be happy with this. This is a lot of palm trees, it's a lot of plants, it'll be very, very pretty.
Thank you.
Yeah, I like it, I wouldn't change anything.
Great.
Question.
Yes.
I'm looking at the building and it says front and rear. So is the front towards the beach or towards the Golf Boulevard?
The doors will be facing Gulf Boulevard.
If the doors are facing Golf Boulevard, then you have an ADA ramp there.
That is correct.
So ADA ramp is going to be like this, and the doors are going to be on the same side?
If you look on the screen, I'll kind of show you the way that the ramp is. So here's your sidewalk.
Yes.
This is your ADA.
Okay.
This will connect directly to a landing pad, which will go up the ramp around. This will be the backside of the
But
building.
the reference, it says ADA ramp up there. See that?
Yes,
notation?
that's just showing that that's what that means. This is all an ADA ramp.
So that's basically flat in front of the.
This will be flat,
In front of it.
yes.
So that's not a ramp. The ramp's on the opposite side. Just
The
wanna-
ramp going up, this is all the ADA
Yes,
ramp.
That's all the ramp. all
This
way
is
up there.
this is the main.
That's the flat area.
That is correct.
All right. I'm just saying it points to ADA ramp there, but just point of clarification. Now, as far as the fence on the east side, I guess, you're trying to retain the dirt, and I guess there's a difference in elevation. Is that why you want to put the fence
The fence on the south side of the property,
on the south side? Yeah.
the fence on the south side is to hold back the landscaping from the property that is directly next door, the beach flower.
Mm-hmm. And that's like a PVC fence?
We haven't decided on a material yet. We were wanting to get the consensus from the board if that is something that you so choose. And then from there, we can proceed with types of fence to make sure it meets
Yeah,
our code.
honestly, I'm not in favor of having a fence there. I think by it just being open, it kind of gives you a better visual. You can see I know part of it is dying, their landscaping, I've seen that, but I'm sure it'll be corrected. So I'd rather see a continuous landscaping than putting a fence separating the properties. So I'm not in favor of the fence.
Didn't you also say that on the south side where the fence is and the condo, didn't you say that's a very invasive plant?
That plant is taking over our property, which will make it very difficult
So it
to
would
have
literally
landscaping
grow
in our
into
area.
it. It would grow
It is
into
growing
anything
into
that
it
we
now.
would plant there, right?
Yes, yes.
It's not very appealing, actually, also. So it's just going to grow and grow and grow, you know.
It makes it very difficult to keep our area clean and maintained. And with having plants that we have on this landscape plan for you all,
So
3 feet is not very wide.
Yeah, when we we've talked about doing an approved plant for the city. Can we implement that citywide? Actually, let me rephrase that. When we approve a plant plan, can't we have plants that we would say, no, you can't have that in a plant, or can you not be that bold?
You can definitely regulate, just like you can regulate trees, you can regulate
Yep.
sizes, heights, that type of thing. You could definitely do that, but you would be changing or creating a portion of your code to provide for that. Obviously, that's not being addressed
Yeah.
here, but you could definitely do that.
I mean, because that's plants that if they had been on a plant plan and someone with plant knowledge had looked at, they would have said, no, you don't want to do those, which we were supposed to have had trees. That whole landscape plan was supposed to have been different, is what we were told, the commission was told previously. That's not on Megan, but I'm just curious because if there are invasive plants that could be a problem in the city, I would think we would want to work towards not having those plants in the city, if we could.
These plants were more of a issue with the location in which they planted them. They planted
Okay.
them directly on the property line, and I can't think of the exact name of them.
Podocarpus, is that those
That is
plants
correct.
there?
That is
Yeah,
exactly what they
those
are.
aren't bad plants.
No,
It's
they're
just
just-
bad at that location.
Okay.
Terrible at
Okay.
that
They're
location.
not insane, and they're not invasive plants. They're just
They're
Approved
on
plants.
the property line, and they are growing onto the city's property.
Understood, but they're not invasive, like Brazilian pepper.
No, they don't spread. They just grow tall, and they can get very big and with very thick bases. And I think, well, I see what she's saying. If we're going to stop them from getting over to the city property, we need to do it now.
Well, it is
Because they
invasive if
become
they
big,
grow
fat
over.
trunks in time.
How would the fence stop that? How would a fence stop the tree, the roots are still gonna grow?
I have those exact plants against my fence. They aren't going on the other side of the fence. I planted them there, or I put right next to the fence. They're not going on to the property next door, and they've been there for 2 years. They're growing tall, but they're not the kind that set a footprint. They grow, they clump, they stay together, they grow tall. However, the trunk does get fat, and she's saying they're right on.
And the branches grow out.
And the branches go out. I see the point she's making. Personally, I would love to see that line of shrubbery being the border, because it is more natural, it's more flowing. But I also see that if we're going to take care of our city property, we can't be reliant on plants that property has planted. So if we're discussing the fence, I'd like to see a fence out there sooner than later before it gets too big.
Or the other option is kind of let their landscaping grow into ours, and we leave that area non-planted as you see on the list. I think just having the both of them without the fence is just making it for a kind of maintenance, I don't want to say nightmare, but it will make it difficult to keep it maintained, holding back their landscaping while trying to keep it out of our landscaping.
You have the legal right to cut that plant off at the property line too. So you can maintain that side by cutting it level with the property line. Don't cut it beyond the property line, but you have the legal right to cut it ground all the way up to the sky on your property line. It just creates additional effort for Public Works to maintain landscaping that's not ours.
I've got a couple. Excuse me. How much is the irrigation going to be costing us to irrigate these 3 islands? And then how much more is this landscaping plan as opposed to what you had originally kind of figured as to what would work there with your landscaping ideas?
A landscape plan, we would not need to irrigate this little island here. These are bottle palms. I have those kind of everywhere. I do not have this Blue Days. This is a new plant that I just found, but I've read really good things about it. So I don't believe that we would need irrigation here. We did not have it there before, but I'd say to run irrigation from here to over to here, you're looking anywhere from $7,000 to $15,000, $20,000, depending on what we do. I'm not a huge fan of drip lines because they work their way up to the top and then they just look messy. Opposed to other plants, I mean, it's hard to say. Obviously, if you change your plants that don't need irrigation, it won't cost anything. These plants, dune sunflowers all come naturally, so we've never purchased them before. The railroad vine also haven't purchased that, so I haven't priced out any of these plants. I know that the bottle palms, because I have those, are roughly $150 a piece at 25 gallons, so fairly cheap. And I actually need to replace some coconut palms over at Archibald, but I haven't gotten around to checking prices on those yet. And I was thinking we go somewhere in the 50-gallon range for those. I'm not sure. I don't want to say a price because I'm not sure what it would cost. But I do know irrigation will be a bit hefty.
Thank you.
There's no reclaimed water, right?
It is reclaimed water.
Oh, it is.
But we have to run all of the irrigation lines. We don't have. They were all taken out.
Yeah. That's nice to have.
I like the landscape plan.
Yep.
It's been a consistent conversation to put landscape back, so I like it. I think you did a great job, and this looks really nice.
Thank you.
Great job.
Anything else?
Could we land on the fence
Thank you.
or not the fence?
I like the fence. I mean, if that You thinking 3 foot, like
3
it's
foot.
just a short?
Yes.
I'm indifferent.
We had a fence on that side previous to the beach flower, but they actually damaged it during their demolition. So this isn't a new thing. We had a fence there
was there.
previously.
Well, can you get them to pay for it?
I tried. It didn't work. It did not work.
I mean, Commissioner Dillon is concerned with money. Can you refresh us on how much money we've received for rebuilding of this park?
Sorry, I wasn't expecting that. Give me 2 seconds.
If not, that's okay.
I don't have it in front of me, and I don't think that we have an estimated number of around 400,000 plus or minus from FEMA, but they haven't given us a price yet because we are not as far along as we were with the other locations. So we are just an update since I'm up here. We've received the foundation plan. I actually just received the state stamped and sealed plans for the bathroom. So we're looking at production timing now. So production, building, and hopefully delivery by mid-November, and we should have the foundation in place. But we have to have the foundation in, building set before we rehab the rest of the park. Otherwise, it will just get wrecked by the crane. So I would hate to wreck brand-new pavers because we will be changing the paver color to delineate between us and caddies as well. So the same color pavers we have down in the pocket parks, I think is the color that we're going to go with, which will further kind of make it known that you have 2 separate properties.
Awesome.
Great job.
Anything additional?
I'm okay with the 3-foot fence. I thought you meant 6 foot.
Oh, absolutely not.
Yeah.
No.
3 is good.
3.
All right, then that was the last thing on our agenda. It is 6:41. We're adjourned.